The existence of consciousness, we. The existence of consciousness is perhaps the greatest enigma of human experience. We wake each day to the undeniable reality of being aware, of seeing, hearing, feeling, and knowing that are the ones experiencing it all. Yet, for all our scientific progress, no one can explain how raw matter produces the intimate glow of awareness. Neurons fire, chemicals flow, circuits connect, but somewhere in that storm of biology, a mysterious spark flickers into being. You don't just process information like a machine, you feel it. The redness of a rose, the warmth of a hug, the ache of heartbreak, each floods you with a private reality no one else can touch. This mystery is unsettling because it reveals the limits of human knowledge. You can map the brain, trace electrical impulses, even predict behavior, but you cannot see or measure the raw fact of being conscious. The inner world resists microscopes and equations, and yet it is the only thing you are certain of. You could doubt the external world, even question whether it exists at all, but you cannot deny that you are experiencing something right here, right now. That undeniable presence, the I am, is the most intimate truth and the most haunting question. What makes consciousness so gripping is its paradox. It feels ordinary, yet it is utterly inexplicable. We live inside a miracle so familiar we forget it is a miracle. Every thought you think, every joy you feel, every moment you love, all of it floats on the invisible sea of awareness that no one can truly define, yet everyone carries like a secret flame. Mind arising from matter. Mind arising from matter is the riddle that cuts to the core of existence. At the deepest level, the brain is nothing more than gray flesh. Cells firing, atoms colliding, electricity sparking in silent patterns. Yet out of this cold machinery blooms the living fire of thought, emotion, and imagination. How can the weightless beauty of a memory, the sting of regret, or the thrill of love possibly emerge from tissue that feels nothing of what it creates? The very idea feels impossible, as if poetry could spill from stone or dreams could rise from dust. You look at a brain scan, and what you see is activity, not experience. No glowing screen of your first kiss, no echo of your childhood laughter, no whisper of the secret hopes you carry. Matter does not show its inner life, and still, within you it sings. Every fleeting idea, every pang of longing, every burst of creativity lives inside the shadowed folds of your brain, woven into patterns you will never see but always feel. This mystery unsettles because it suggests you are both machine and miracle, an intricate device of cells that somehow generates a universe of private meaning. It raises a haunting thought. If mind can rise from matter, is everything, your identity, your soul, your very sense of self, just a fragile arrangement of atoms waiting to dissolve? Or does it hint at something deeper, something the raw language of science cannot capture? The leap from matter to mind remains one of the greatest and most haunting puzzles of all. The feel of different colors. The feel of different colors is one of the strangest and most intimate riddles of consciousness. You look at a rose and there it is, red, vibrant, alive, with a quality that cannot be reduced to wavelengths or physics. Science tells you red is just light vibrating at a certain frequency, no more mysterious than the hum of a string or the ripple of water. But what you see is not a number or a wave. It is redness, burning into your awareness with a reality only you can feel. Blue carries calm, green hums with life, yellow warms the spirit, each shade painted not just on the world, but on the canvas of your inner self. This puzzle slices into the heart of what experience even is. Machines can register wavelengths, cameras can capture images, but none of them feel the redness of red. They record, they compute, they output, but they do not experience. And so the question lingers, why does your brain not only process color, but also clothe it in a private glow of sensation? Why does light, stripped of meaning in the physical world, ignite such richness inside you? It is haunting to realize that no one will ever truly know what your red feels like, or whether it is anything like their own. Your inner spectrum is locked inside your skull, sealed in a chamber no eye can enter. The feel of colors exposes the deepest solitude of being human. We share the world, yet the most basic qualities of it, the very shades we see, remain utterly personal, like secrets whispered only to the self. The unpleasantness of pain. The unpleasantness of pain is one of the most haunting mysteries of existence. A signal travels through nerves, chemicals fire, the brain registers an event, but somewhere along the way, that signal turns into suffering. It is not just pressure, not just heat, not just damage. It is agony, a raw, burning presence that grips the mind and refuses to let go. The body warns itself, yet the warning feels like torture. Pain could have been designed as a neutral alert, a simple indicator like a flashing light on a dashboard. Instead, it claws at your being, demanding attention, flooding every corner of awareness with its sharp, inescapable sting. This unbearable quality of pain is what makes it so hard to ignore, so impossible to dismiss. It pulls you fully into the present, obliterating thought, narrowing the world to a single searing point. And yet, this very cruelty is what keeps you alive. It forces you to withdraw your hand from fire, to tend to a wound, to protect your fragile body from harm. But still the question burns. Why must the alert system hurt? Why must survival feel like suffering? Pain does more than guard the body. It invades the spirit. Emotional wounds, heartbreak, grief, rejection, they echo through the same corridors of the brain, turning invisible injuries into storms of despair. Pain is both the teacher and the tormentor, shaping life through the most primal force you know. It is the reminder of your fragility, the shadow you cannot escape, the dark companion that makes every moment of relief, every breath without suffering, feel like a fragile, fleeting gift. The pleasantness of pleasure. The pleasantness of pleasure is as mysterious as it is irresistible. A taste of chocolate, the warmth of a lover's touch, the rush of music that makes your chest ache. All of it feels not just neutral, but profoundly good. Your brain releases chemicals, circuits light up, and yet out of this biology bursts an experience that floods you with sweetness, comfort, or ecstasy. Machines can measure dopamine or serotonin, but they cannot reveal the shimmering goodness that sweeps through you when desire is satisfied. It is not just a signal of survival, it is joy itself, glowing inside awareness. Pleasure seduces by making life feel worth living. It draws you toward food, toward intimacy, toward laughter and connection, binding you to the world with threads of delight. Yet its mystery lies in its depth. Why should salt on your tongue make you sigh with contentment? Why should sunlight on your skin feel like peace? Why should the act of being alive sometimes carry a weightless euphoria that cannot be explained or contained? The strangest truth is that pleasure is not uniform. It can be soft and tender, like the quiet happiness of lying in bed on a rainy morning, or fierce and consuming, like passion that leaves you trembling. It can arrive without warning, in the smallest details, a fleeting scent or a remembered song, reminding you that joy hides in the simplest places. The pleasantness of pleasure is more than survival. It is the intoxicating gift that makes you chase life again and again, even through the pain and uncertainty that shadow every moment of being. Animal consciousness. Animal consciousness is a mystery that unsettles the way we see ourselves. When a dog wags its tail, when a cat curls against your chest, when an elephant lingers by the bones of its dead, something stirs in them that feels impossibly familiar. They look at you with eyes that seem to carry presence, awareness, perhaps even love. But what is happening behind those eyes? Do they feel the world the way you do, or is it only instinct wrapped in illusion? Science can measure behavior, track neurons, record signals, but it cannot touch the inner spark of another being. Does a bird soaring through the sky feel the joy of flight, or is it just muscles and reflex? Does a whale's mournful song carry emotion, or is it only sound shaped by evolution? The question gnaws at us because animals mirror us too closely to dismiss. They play, they suffer, they bond, they dream. Yes, even dreaming dogs whimper and twitch as if lost in worlds we cannot see. To sense the possibility of their consciousness is to feel both wonder and guilt. Wonder at the idea that the earth hums with countless private worlds of experience, each creature carrying a hidden window of awareness. Guilt, because if they truly feel, then every act of neglect, every cage, every wound inflicted on them carries the weight of real suffering. Animal consciousness challenges the boundary we draw between us and the rest of life, whispering that we may not be alone in the miracle of inner light, but surrounded by it, endlessly, everywhere. Insect awareness. Insect awareness is a riddle that unsettles the boundary between instinct and experience. When a fly darts from your hand or an ant finds its way back to the colony, is there a flicker of something felt behind those glassy eyes? Their brains are specks compared to ours, clusters of neurons no bigger than a grain of sand, yet within that tiny machinery may live a spark of presence. Do they feel a shimmer of sunlight on their wings, or is it only blind reflex? Does the spider sense beauty in its web, or is it merely weaving threads in silence? The thought stirs unease because it blurs the line between human uniqueness and the vast ocean of life around us. If awareness can arise in a creature so small, then consciousness may not be rare or lofty at all. It could be everywhere, humming in countless forms beneath our notice. Imagine a world where every buzzing bee, every crawling beetle, every moth circling a flame carries a hidden sliver of inner life, unseen but real. And yet, there is no way to know. You cannot look inside a wasp's mind and feel what it feels. You can only wonder as it hovers, wings trembling in the air, whether it is a hollow machine or a tiny witness to existence. The possibility gnaws at the edges of certainty. Perhaps awareness is not the privilege of the few, but the quiet secret of nature itself, scattered like sparks across even the smallest beating hearts. Loss of awareness in sleep. The loss of awareness in sleep is one of the most unsettling disappearances you live through every night. You close your eyes, the world slips away, and then nothing. Hours vanish into a blank void, a stretch of time where you do not exist for yourself. In deep sleep, there is no thought, no memory, no you. The body still breathes, the heart still beats, the brain still hums with hidden rhythms, but the spark of awareness, the very thing that makes the world vivid, simply shuts off. It is as though the universe blinks you out, only to return you at dawn. What makes this so haunting is how natural it feels. You surrender daily to this death-like state, trusting you will return, though you have no control, no guarantee. When you wake, awareness pours back in, as if it had been waiting behind a door. But where was it while you were gone? Did the self pause like a forgotten song, or did it dissolve completely into nothingness? That black gap between closing your eyes and opening them again is a reminder of just how fragile consciousness really is. Sleep shows that awareness is not constant, not permanent, but a state that flickers on and off like a fragile flame. Dreams sometimes break the void, strange and fleeting, but even they vanish into silence, leaving you with fragments at best. The loss of awareness in sleep exposes a chilling truth. The self you cling to can vanish without warning, dissolving into a nothingness you will never remember, a nightly rehearsal for the greater silence waiting beyond life. Realness of dreams. The realness of dreams is one of the strangest and most intimate puzzles of the mind. You close your eyes, drift into sleep, and suddenly you are living in another world, walking streets that don't exist, speaking with people long gone, feeling terror, love, or wonder as if it were unfolding right now. In those moments, the dream does not feel like fiction. It feels lived. Your heart races, your body tenses, your soul responds as if the dream were as real as waking life. Only when you awaken does the illusion dissolve, leaving you haunted by how easily your mind can conjure entire realities from nothing. What makes dreams so unsettling is not just their vividness, but their authority. In a dream, you rarely question what is happening. You accept the impossible, a friend who transforms into a stranger, a city that shifts its shape, a flight through the sky, as though it were natural. Your brain suspends doubt, weaving a story so seamless that you surrender to it completely. And when you wake, you realize how fragile your grip on reality truly is. If your mind can create convincing worlds every night, what guarantees the waking world is any less a construction? Dreams reveal that consciousness carries its own universe within it, capable of bending space, time, and identity without warning. They blur the boundary between the real and the imagined, reminding you that your experience of reality depends not on the outside world, but on the delicate fabric of awareness itself. In their fleeting hours, dreams expose the raw truth. Reality may be less solid than it seems. The flow of time. The flow of time is one of the strangest illusions of the mind. Seconds tick on a clock, numbers change, but what you feel is something entirely different. You feel time moving, sweeping you forward, carrying you from past to present to future like a river that never stops. Yet science tells another story. The laws of physics describe time as static, all moments existing at once, with no flowing current. Still, in your awareness, there is motion, a relentless drift of now slipping through your fingers, impossible to hold. Moments of joy seem to vanish in an instant, gone before you can catch them, while moments of suffering stretch endlessly, each second dragging like chains. In danger, a heartbeat expands into eternity. In love, hours collapse into minutes. Time bends to the weight of experience, shaped not by clocks, but by the raw pulse of consciousness. The flow feels deeply personal, yet universal. Every person alive shares the same strange sensation of being carried forward, helpless passengers in a journey that cannot be paused. Memory ties you to the past, anticipation pulls you toward the future, but you live only in the razor-thin slice of the present, and even that slips away as soon as you notice it. This relentless movement stirs both awe and dread. It gives life urgency, makes every moment precious, yet also ensures that nothing can last. The flow of time is not just a backdrop to existence, it is the silent force that shapes it, the invisible current that sweeps all lives, all loves, all dreams into the depths of eternity. The specialness of now. The specialness of now is a paradox that wraps every moment of your life in mystery. The past lingers only as memory, the future exists only as possibility, yet the present cuts through like a blade, sharp, undeniable, alive. You never actually live in yesterday or tomorrow. You live only in this sliver of time that forever slips away the instant you notice it. And still, now feels heavier than all else, as if the universe pours its full weight into this single heartbeat before it dissolves into the past. Science speaks of time as a dimension, indifferent and seamless, where no moment is privileged over another. But your awareness tells a different story. It crowns the present as king, painting it in colors that the past cannot hold and the future cannot promise. Every joy you've ever tasted, every pain you've endured, every love you've felt, all of it unfolded in the immediacy of now. It is the only stage where life truly happens, yet it is also the most fragile, constantly vanishing before your eyes. The haunting question is why consciousness insists on treating this instant as sacred. Why do we feel pulled into the current moment while the rest of time stretches out as silent shadows? The now feels charged, luminous, unlike anything else, and yet it is gone as soon as you grasp it, leaving you reaching for what can never be held. In this fleetingness lies the raw edge of existence, an eternal present that forever escapes your hands, the privacy of awareness. The privacy of awareness is one of the most isolating truths of being alive. Every thought you have, every sensation you feel, every color, sound, or memory that floods your mind, it all happens behind a locked door that no one else can enter. You can describe your experiences, paint them with words, or even scream them into the world, but no one will ever feel what you feel in the exact way you feel it. Your joy, your sorrow, your pain, your wonder, they are yours alone, sealed inside the silent chamber of your mind. This hiddenness creates both intimacy and loneliness. When you laugh with friends, when you fall in love, when you cry in grief, there is a sense of connection, but always with a gap that can never be crossed. You can look into someone's eyes and sense their soul, yet still their awareness remains theirs, and yours remains yours. No matter how deeply you bond, the raw texture of your inner life is unshareable. It is the most real thing you know, and yet it is invisible to everyone else. The privacy of awareness is also what makes you wonder about others. Does their red look like your red? Do they feel joy the way you do? Or is it something utterly alien behind their smile? You will never truly know. Locked inside your skull, you are a solitary witness to your universe, carrying a world no one else will ever walk through, a secret reality that lives and dies within you alone. The unity of experience. The unity of experience is a mystery that hides in plain sight. Right now, you see these words, hear the faint noises around you, feel the weight of your body, and sense emotions moving beneath it all. Yet it does not feel like scattered fragments. It feels like one seamless moment, a single field of awareness holding everything together. Billions of neurons are firing in different parts of your brain, each handling separate tasks. But what you live is not billions of disconnected sparks. What you live is a whole, a unified presence that feels indivisible. This unity is so natural, we rarely notice it. But the more you think about it, the stranger it becomes. The brain has no central screen, no theater where everything is projected at once, and yet that is exactly what you experience, a movie of life that never splits into pieces. You do not see the world in parts. You see a world. You do not feel thoughts as separate. You feel a mind. The unsettling beauty of this mystery is that even when the brain fractures, awareness still clings to wholeness. People with damaged perception, missing senses, or altered states still report a continuous flow of I. Even in dreams, in hallucinations, in moments of confusion, the sense of being one consciousness remains. The unity of experience holds you together, binding scattered signals into a single identity. It is the silent thread, stitching the fragments of perception into the story of a self, leaving you to wonder how a divided brain can generate something so whole. Dual minds in split brain cases. Dual minds in split brain cases reveal a chilling fracture in what we assume to be a single, unified self. When the corpus callosum, the thick bridge of nerves connecting the brain's hemispheres, is severed to treat severe epilepsy, something extraordinary emerges. Patients outwardly appear normal, able to talk, walk, and live as if unchanged. But beneath the surface, two centers of awareness seem to flicker into existence, each hemisphere processing the world independently, sometimes even in conflict. One hand buttons a shirt while the other unbuttons it. One side of the brain recognizes an object, while the other insists it has never seen it. A person may verbally deny seeing an image presented to the right hemisphere, yet their left hand can draw it in detail. It is as if two consciousnesses inhabit the same body, coexisting but only dimly aware of one another. This phenomenon shakes the very foundation of identity. You feel whole, indivisible, but split brain cases suggest your unity may be an illusion stitched together by fragile connections. If cutting a bridge in the brain can reveal hidden selves, then what are you, really? A single consciousness commanding the body, or a collection of voices held together by wiring? The thought is deeply unsettling. Perhaps the self is not one flame, but many sparks bound in fragile harmony. In split-brain patients, that harmony breaks, exposing the eerie possibility that your sense of I could unravel, leaving behind not silence, but a chorus of separate minds, each staring out from the same pair of eyes. Erasure of Awareness under Anesthesia. The erasure of awareness under anesthesia is one of the most chilling mysteries of the mind. One moment, you are lying on a table with lights glaring above you, doctors moving around, fear rushing through your veins. The next, nothing. Not darkness, not silence, not sleep. Nothing. Hours vanish as if they never existed, carved out of your life with surgical precision. And then you return, blinking, disoriented, grasping for time that has slipped away. Where did your consciousness go during those hours? Did it hide? Did it cease? Or was it simply erased like chalk from a board? Unlike sleep, where dreams flicker and awareness lingers in fragile strands, anesthesia plunges you into a void so absolute it feels almost like death. You do not experience the absence. You are the absence. And yet, with a simple chemical trick, the essence of your being, your awareness, your inner world, can be switched off like a lamp extinguished with a flick. This power unsettles because it reveals the fragility of the thing you take for granted most, your own presence. If consciousness can be so easily silenced, reduced to nothing by a dose of molecules, what does that say about its nature? The experience leaves you haunted, wondering whether awareness is not as permanent as it feels, but instead a delicate flame that can be snuffed out at will. In the sterile silence of the operating room, you glimpse a terrifying possibility that your entire world, the richness of your existence, hangs by the thinnest thread of chemistry. Radical shifts from psychedelics reveal just how unstable and fragile your sense of reality really is. A small dose of a molecule, LSD, psilocybin, DMT, can completely dissolve the familiar world and replace it with something unrecognizable. Walls breathe, time fractures, the self melts away into an endless ocean of color, sound, and meaning. What feels solid and unquestionable in everyday life suddenly unravels into visions, patterns, and revelations that shake the core of your being. For many, these shifts carry an intensity that feels more real than waking life. A tree doesn't just look alive, it radiates a sacred presence. A sound doesn't just echo, it reverberates through the soul. Ordinary thoughts bloom into cosmic truths, while the boundaries between self and world evaporate into pure oneness. People return from these journeys insisting they have touched something beyond the ordinary mind, a realm of hidden truth glimpsed through a crack in the skull. But the haunting part is what this implies. If chemicals can so easily distort or expand your consciousness, how much of what you call reality is truly stable? If a mushroom can shift the structure of perception, what does that say about the foundation of everyday awareness? The psychedelic state blurs the line between inner and outer, imagination and truth, illusion and revelation. Whether it is hallucination or hidden doorway, it proves one terrifying fact, that your reality, the one you trust completely, is not fixed but fragile and can be rewritten in an instant by the chemistry inside your brain. Near-death visions. Near-death visions strike at the fragile border between life and whatever might lie beyond. Countless people who brush against death describe the same haunting patterns, drifting out of the body, floating above themselves, passing through a tunnel of light, meeting loved ones long gone, or feeling a peace so profound it eclipses all fear. These visions feel more vivid than dreams, more real than waking life, searing themselves into memory with an intensity that often changes a person forever. Science searches for explanations. oxygen starvation, chemical floods, the brain firing wildly in its final struggle. But none of these accounts capture the overwhelming realness that survivors insist upon. They don't recall hallucinations, they recall journeys. They speak of light that radiates love, voices that call with impossible familiarity, presences that feel eternal. Even skeptics are shaken by the consistency of these reports across cultures, ages, and histories. What makes near-death visions so emotionally gripping is their intimacy. They do not unfold in some distant universe. They happen at the threshold of your own existence. They confront you with the possibility that death is not an end, but a passage, or that the mind itself carries realities unbound by the body. For some, these visions erase fear and leave them glowing with gratitude. For others, they ignite an unshakable curiosity or dread. In the quiet moments after, survivors often struggle with the weight of what they've seen. Was it only the brain's last flare of activity, or did they glimpse something hidden, something waiting? Near-death visions remain one of the most powerful reminders that consciousness itself may stretch further than life allows us to know. The uncanny feel of déjà vu. The uncanny feel of déjà vu is like slipping into a crack in reality. One moment you are walking into a room, hearing a voice, touching an object, and suddenly a wave of eerie familiarity crashes over you. You know, with bone-deep certainty, that you have lived this exact moment before. The way the light falls, the rhythm of words, the very shape of the air feels like a replay of something hidden, a memory you cannot place yet, cannot deny. It is not just recognition, it is haunting. Déjà vu carries a ghostly weight, as if the universe itself has stuttered, as if time has folded and let you peek into its seams. For a heartbeat, the ordinary feels faded, inevitable, already written, as though you are walking through a scene from a dream you forgot until now. Science offers theories, misfiring neurons, memory glitches, the brain briefly confusing present with past, but none of that explains the feeling, the deep, unshakable conviction that the moment has returned. That conviction chills you because it suggests you are not fully in control of your own experience. Something beneath awareness is playing tricks, pulling you into an illusion so vivid it feels more real than truth. Déjà vu unsettles because it exposes the fragility of your sense of time and memory. In its grip, reality itself trembles. You are left with a shiver, a lingering question. If the present can masquerade as the past so convincingly, how much of your life is a story you can truly trust, and how much is your mind weaving shadows into certainty? Vividness of certain memories. The vividness of certain memories is a haunting paradox of the mind. Some moments, long gone, burn brighter than the present, etched into you with colors, sounds, and feelings so sharp they feel alive again each time you recall them. A childhood laugh, a first kiss, the sting of a cruel word. These fragments glow in your awareness as if time never touched them, yet most of your life dissolves into haze, forgotten, blurred, lost in the endless sea of passing days. Why do certain instants cling to you like ghosts, while others vanish without a trace? The mystery deepens when you realize how memories twist themselves. They are not perfect recordings, but living things, reshaped each time you summon them. Still, the vivid ones feel untouched, undeniable, as if they were branded into your being. They can flood your body with warmth or break it with grief, pulling you back into places you thought you had left behind. The mind does not simply remember, it resurrects. This strange selectiveness of memory shapes who you are. You are built not from the endless hours you cannot recall, but from the burning fragments that refuse to fade. These vivid moments form the scaffolding of identity, the anchor points that tell you who you have been and who you are becoming, yet the very power of them can be tormenting. A single flash of memory can pierce through years, making the past feel closer than the present, proving that time may pass, but what seizes your consciousness never truly lets go. Conviction of false memories. The conviction of false memories is one of the most chilling tricks of the mind. You can recall the smile of someone you love, the sound of their voice, the smell of a childhood home, and yet memory can betray you. Entire scenes can be fabricated, details twisted, events rewritten, yet they feel as real as the air you breathe. You don't just think you remember, you know it happened. The certainty burns in your chest, unshakable, even when the truth proves otherwise. This betrayal exposes how fragile your identity really is. Memories shape who you are, the stories you tell yourself, the life you believe you've lived. But if memory can lie so convincingly, how much of your past is real and how much is invention? The brain does not store life like a photograph. It rebuilds each moment every time you recall it, stitching together fragments, filling in gaps, rewriting details without your awareness. And once rewritten, the false becomes indistinguishable from the true. The emotional weight of these false memories makes them even more dangerous. You can feel love, guilt, grief, or rage for something that never happened. Families have been torn apart by memories that were illusions. Courts have condemned people on testimonies born not from lies but from conviction in events that never occurred. The scariest part is not that memories can be wrong. It's that you may never know which of yours are. You live inside a story written by your own mind, never certain which chapters are fact and which are dreams disguised as truth. Intrusive trauma memories. Intrusive trauma memories are among the most haunting failures of the mind's design. Unlike ordinary memories, which fade and blur with time, these memories erupt uninvited, raw and alive, as if the past were breaking back into the present. A sound, a smell, a glance. Any small trigger can rip open the wound, flooding the body with terror, pain, or grief, as though the event were happening all over again. The heart pounds, the skin sweats, the mind spirals. The memory does not feel like remembering, it feels like reliving. This relentless intrusion exposes a cruel paradox. Memory is meant to protect, to guide you through life by keeping lessons from the past. But when trauma stamps itself too deeply into the nervous system, the reminder becomes a torment. Instead of a faded scar, it remains an open wound, one that never quite closes. Neuroscience shows that trauma locks itself into survival circuits, making the body overreact to danger that no longer exists. Yet to the sufferer, the reaction feels inescapably real, proof that the nightmare is not finished. The most chilling part is the way these memories steal control. You can try to move forward, to build a new life, to breathe in peace, but the past ambushes you, dragging you back without consent. It robs the present of safety and stains the future with dread. Intrusive trauma. Memories are more than echoes of pain. They are reminders that consciousness can be hijacked, that the mind can be forced to replay its darkest chapters, leaving you trapped in moments you desperately long to escape. Hypnotic states. Hypnotic states open a door into one of the strangest frontiers of the mind, a place where awareness bends, will softens, and the ordinary boundaries of self seem to blur. Under hypnosis, people can forget their own names, feel pain vanish as if switched off, or act on suggestions with unwavering conviction. The body responds, the mind complies, yet the person insists they are simply drifting, relaxed, suspended in a twilight zone between waking and sleep. What makes hypnosis so haunting is its power over the very core of autonomy. A voice speaks, and the mind obeys. A suggestion is planted, and the body follows as though it were its own idea. The hypnotized mind can conjure sensations out of thin air. A burning match feels cool. A glass of water tastes sweet as wine. The border between imagination and reality dissolves, leaving the person caught in a dream that unfolds while their eyes remain open. Science can track brain waves, identify patterns of focus, and describe heightened suggestibility, but it cannot capture the subjective strangeness of surrendering control to another's words. The hypnotic state is not sleep, not wakefulness, but something else entirely, a state where the unconscious rises to the surface and the conscious self drifts into the background. What grips the imagination most is the vulnerability revealed in hypnosis. Beneath the armor of reason and identity lies a mind that can be steered, shaped, and even rewritten. To enter a hypnotic state is to glimpse just how fragile the sense of control really is, and how easily the boundaries of self can dissolve into suggestion. Self-shifts in meditation. Self-shifts in meditation reveal one of the most disorienting and awe-filled mysteries of consciousness. As you close your eyes, breathe, and sink into stillness, something begins to change. The steady chatter of thought softens, the sense of boundaries between you and the world blurs, and a subtle unraveling takes place. The self, the voice in your head, the narrator that never stops speaking, fades like mist at sunrise. What remains is an eerie spaciousness, a quiet awareness without edges, as if you are both nowhere and everywhere at once. This experience unsettles because the self feels permanent, the unshakable center of life. Yet in meditation, that center proves fragile, even illusory. You may suddenly feel your body dissolve into vibration, your thoughts flicker and vanish, or your awareness stretch beyond anything you can name. Moments arrive where the familiar I is gone, replaced by something vast, impersonal, and strangely free. It feels at once terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because you sense how thin your grip on identity truly is. Liberating because beneath the noise of self, there lies a still ocean of peace. What does it mean that the self, the thing you cling to most, can be shifted so easily that with nothing more than silence and breath, the architecture of me can collapse, leaving behind only raw presence? Meditation exposes the unsettling truth that who you think you are may not be as solid as it feels. Instead, yourself may be just a mask, one that can slip away, revealing a deeper mystery you cannot name, but can only feel. Time dilation in fear. Time dilation in fear is one of the strangest distortions of consciousness. In moments of terror, when a car skids toward you, when you fall from a height, when danger seizes you, time itself seems to shatter. Each second stretches into eternity. Every heartbeat pounds like a drum echoing across an endless corridor. The world slows, details sharpen, and you feel trapped in a suspended reality where everything unfolds in agonizing clarity. This phenomenon reveals how deeply fear takes hold of the mind. The brain, flooded with adrenaline, shifts into survival mode, capturing more detail, pushing awareness into overdrive. But to the experiencer, it doesn't feel like heightened focus. It feels like time itself has changed its rhythm. You could swear minutes have passed when in reality, it was only a heartbeat. It's as if fear grants you an unwanted superpower, the ability to live more life in less time, every second drawn out to its breaking point. The haunting part is how helpless it makes you. Fear hijacks not only the body, but the very fabric of experience, twisting the flow of time into something alien and inescapable. In that stretched out eternity, you feel both hyper alive and utterly powerless. It leaves a scar long after the danger passes, a memory stamped with impossible slowness that makes ordinary time feel fragile and unreal. Time dilation in fear is the reminder that reality is not fixed, that even the most constant thing you trust, the ticking of time, can unravel in the grip of terror. Timelessness in flow. Timelessness in flow is one of the most intoxicating mysteries of human experience. It happens in those rare moments when you are so immersed in what you are doing that the world around you dissolves. Hours vanish into minutes, and minutes stretch into forever. There is no past, no future, only the electric pulse of now. Athletes describe it when their movements feel effortless. Artists when creation seems to pour through them. Lovers when the world shrinks to the touch of a hand or the sound of a breath. In flow, the mind stops watching the clock and becomes the clock. your sense of self melts into the task, and action and awareness fuse together in a way that feels both weightless and unstoppable. Time doesn't just pass unnoticed, it ceases to exist as something separate from you. You are no longer moving through time. Time is moving through you, carried by the rhythm of what you are doing. This timelessness is more than a trick of perception. It feels like liberation. Outside of flow, life is filled with waiting, counting, anticipating, regretting. But inside it, the burden of time disappears. You are no longer haunted by what came before or anxious about what might come after. You are alive in the purest sense, existing fully in a moment that feels infinite even as it slips away. The mystery is that the brain, built to measure and divide time, can also abandon it completely, gifting you the rarest of human treasures, the chance to step outside the prison of the clock and taste eternity, if only for a fleeting breath. Out-of-body experiences. Out-of-body experiences tear open the fragile link between mind and body, leaving people with the eerie conviction that they have floated free from their own flesh. Victims of trauma, near-death moments, or even deep meditation often describe the same haunting sensation. They rise above themselves, watching their body from the outside, as though their consciousness has slipped loose from its anchor. They see hospital rooms from the ceiling, hear voices from impossible angles, and drift in a state where the physical form is no longer home, but a hollow shell. What makes these experiences so unsettling is their vividness. Unlike dreams, they do not feel imagined. They feel real, often more real than ordinary life. The body lies motionless, yet the self hovers, seeing, feeling, moving without flesh or bone. It feels like proof that you are not just your body, that something inside you can exist beyond blood and bone, even if only for a moment. Science searches for explanations in brain chemistry, sensory misfiring, temporal lobe disruptions, lack of oxygen, or a breakdown in how the brain maps the body's position in space. Yet none of these cold mechanisms explain the raw conviction of leaving yourself behind. The experience resonates too deeply, stirring ancient questions about the soul, the afterlife, and what you truly are beneath skin. Out-of-body experiences expose the most intimate terror and hope that you are more than matter, more than flesh. Whether illusion or revelation, they leave behind the chilling sense that your consciousness may not be as bound to your body as you once believed. Self-loss in deep meditation. Self-loss in deep meditation is one of the most bewildering and transformative mysteries of the mind. As you drift beyond breath, beyond thought, beyond even the quiet observer watching it all, something astonishing happens. The self dissolves. The voice in your head goes silent. The boundary of your body vanishes, and what remains is awareness without a center. There is no I to cling to, no story to narrate, no anchor holding the world together. There is only a vastness, a boundless presence that feels both infinite and intimate, like slipping into the very fabric of existence itself. The shock of this experience cannot be overstated. All your life, you live from the inside of a self, convinced it is permanent, indivisible, the very core of who you are. Yet, in the depths of meditation, that core reveals itself to be fragile, even illusory. The disappearance of you is not like sleep or anesthesia. There is no blankness. Instead, there is everything, but without anyone inside to own it. Some describe it as union, others as emptiness, but the common thread is the terrifying and exhilarating absence of the self you thought was unshakable. What does it mean that the I can vanish while awareness remains? That existence continues but without a name, a center, or a face. For some, it feels like freedom beyond imagination. For others, like staring into the abyss. Self-loss in meditation is not an escape. It is a revelation that the person you believed yourself to be may be nothing more than a fleeting construction, dissolving into the endless mystery of consciousness itself. Hidden unconscious thoughts. Hidden unconscious thoughts are the shadowy undercurrent of your mind, shaping your life in ways you rarely notice. Beneath the surface of awareness, thoughts swirl silently, unseen patterns, desires, and fears that influence what you choose, how you feel, and even who you become. You speak a word without knowing why, flinch at a sound without thinking, or find yourself drawn to someone without reason. These are not accidents. They are whispers from a hidden self that never sleeps. What makes them so unsettling is their invisibility. You live believing you are in control, that your choices are deliberate, that your awareness holds the steering wheel. Yet science shows that unconscious processes often decide long before your conscious mind catches up. The brain makes a move, and only afterward does the mind invent a story about why it happened. In truth, much of what you call you is a narration written after the fact. The unconscious is not just a passive archive, it is active, alive, constantly sculpting your reality. Old traumas buried in silence reappear as sudden anxiety. Forgotten faces surface in dreams. Words slip from your lips that you never meant to say, revealing truths you didn't know you carried. Even love, hate, prejudice, and creativity spring from depths you cannot fully reach. The hidden unconscious is a reminder that you are never fully transparent to yourself. Beneath the bright surface of awareness lies a vast and secret ocean, a place where the unknown version of you thinks, remembers, and decides, silently pulling the strings of the life you believe you control. Unconscious guidance of decisions. Unconscious guidance of decisions reveals just how little control you truly have over the choices that shape your life. You tell yourself that you weigh options carefully, that you are the author of your actions, but beneath that surface narrative lies a storm of hidden forces pulling the strings. Long before you are aware of deciding, your brain has already tilted the scales, filtering memories, emotions, and instincts that whisper their verdict into your mind. By the time you choose, the decision often feels inevitable, as though your awareness is merely catching up to something already decided. This mystery unsettles because it strikes at the heart of free will. A scent from childhood can shift your mood and steer you toward one path without you realizing it. A fleeting expression on someone's face can spark trust or suspicion that alters your response. Advertisers know it, politicians exploit it, manipulators weaponize it. The unconscious quietly shapes your desires, your fears, your judgments, and still, you believe the story you tell yourself. I chose this. The haunting truth is that the unconscious does not always act in your favor. It can trap you in old patterns, pushing you to repeat mistakes you swore you'd never make again. It can nudge you toward danger or keep you chained to comforts that stunt your growth. And yet, it is also your silent protector, guiding you away from harm before you notice the threat, sparking intuition that saves your life, creating flashes of insight that feel like gifts from nowhere. The unconscious is the hidden hand shaping destiny, both guardian and saboteur, and it does its work in the shadows where your awareness cannot reach. Action before awareness. Action before awareness shatters the illusion that you are fully in control of your own choices. Experiments reveal that your brain begins preparing for movement before you consciously decide to act. Electrodes detect readiness signals milliseconds or even seconds before the moment you feel yourself choosing. You reach for a glass, press a button, speak a word, all the while believing you initiated it, when in truth the body was already in motion, the decision already written into your neurons before you even knew. This revelation cuts deep because it challenges the very core of free will. If your actions spark in the brain before you become aware of them, then what is your conscious self really doing? Perhaps it is not the author of choice but the narrator, watching decisions unfold and weaving a story after the fact. You feel as though you are steering, yet you may simply be along for the ride, grasping at meaning once the machinery of the brain has already turned the wheel. The haunting part is how seamless the illusion feels. Every gesture, every word, every thought arrives wrapped in the sensation of authorship, convincing you that you willed it. But beneath that surface, invisible processes hum, unseen forces drive you forward, and the self you trust so deeply may be only the echo of a deeper, hidden mind. Action before awareness unsettles because it makes you question whether the I at the center of your life is truly in command, or just a witness to choices already made in the shadows of your brain. Delay between brain and awareness. The delay between brain and awareness is one of the most unsettling cracks in the illusion of self. Every movement you make, every decision you believe to be instant, is already set in motion before you feel the spark of intention. The brain fires first, neurons preparing, signals racing, muscles primed, and only afterward does consciousness arrive, whispering, "I chose this." What feels like will is often a delayed narration, a story told after the fact to make sense of actions already unfolding. This delay is haunting because it undermines the sense of being in control. You lift a glass, and only after the brain commands it do you feel the decision emerge. You speak words, and only as they leave your lips do you recognize them as your own. Consciousness is not steering the machine, it is watching, slightly behind, claiming ownership of movements it did not create. It is like being a passenger who mistakes themselves for the driver, gripping the wheel of a car that moves regardless of their touch. And yet, this delay is invisible in daily life. Awareness feels immediate, choice feels real, and the illusion of control wraps you in its comforting grip. But beneath that veil, the truth shudders. Consciousness lags, always a step behind the brain's silent clockwork. To glimpse this gap is to face the eerie possibility that what you call your will, your freedom, your very self, might be less the cause of action than the echo of a body already in motion, a mind chasing the shadow of its own machinery. The sense of free will. The sense of free will is one of the most intoxicating illusions of human life. You feel it every time you pause before a decision, the tug between yes and no, the power to choose one path and abandon another. You believe you are the author of your story, the driver of your fate, the one who decides who you love, what you do, and who you become. That feeling of control is so natural, so deeply woven into your being, that questioning it feels almost unbearable. And yet, beneath the surface, the machinery of the brain tells another story. Neurons fire, chemicals shift, unconscious processes stir long before you become aware of your choice. Experiments show that your brain prepares to act seconds before you consciously decide. By the time you feel the moment of choice, the decision may already be set in motion. Still, the sense of freedom lingers, a haunting presence that refuses to dissolve even when reason tells you it may not exist. What makes free will so powerful is the meaning it gives life. Without it, love feels less chosen, morality less binding, ambition less heroic. The idea that you are simply carried along by hidden processes, by forces you cannot see or control, is terrifying. And so the sense of free will remains, burning inside you, shaping every moment, every action, every belief. Whether it is an illusion or a truth, it defines what it feels like to be human. The unbearable weight in the soaring freedom of believing that your life is, in the end, yours. Tension with determinism. The tension with determinism cuts straight into the core of what it means to be human. Every choice you make feels alive with freedom, turning left instead of right, speaking up instead of staying silent, saying yes when you might have said no. You feel the weight of responsibility because you believe deep down that it could have gone differently. Yet determinism whispers something colder. Every decision was already written, etched into the unfolding of cause and effect long before you felt the stirrings of choice. Neurons fire, chemistry flows, and the path you take is the only one you ever could have taken. This clash creates a tormenting paradox. If the universe runs on laws of physics, then everything, your laughter, your heartbreak, even this very moment, was inevitable. You are not the author, only the witness of a story that could never unfold any other way. But to live as though that were true feels unbearable. The human spirit craves freedom, the belief that you are steering your own ship rather than riding a current you cannot escape. And so you live suspended between two realities, one where every action is determined by forces beyond you, and one where you hold the pen to your own fate. This tension is not just intellectual, it is visceral. You feel it when you regret a mistake, when you long for a second chance, when you praise or condemn yourself and others. If determinism rules, justice, love, guilt, and hope all tremble under its weight, leaving you staring into a world where freedom might be nothing more than an illusion you cannot stop believing. Internal sense of agency. The internal sense of agency is the quiet yet unshakable feeling that you are the one steering your life. Every movement of your hand, every word from your lips, every decision you make carries a subtle signature of ownership, a whisper of, "I did this." It is so natural you barely notice it until it falters. Patients with certain brain injuries or neurological disorders sometimes move but swear the action wasn't theirs, as if their own limbs were being controlled by a stranger. Others experience the opposite, an action triggered unconsciously, yet they feel compelled to claim it as their own. This fragile sense of authorship is what makes life feel lived from the inside rather than like a film being watched from afar. Without it, you would feel like a puppet, your body a hollow vessel jerked around by unseen strings, yet the mystery runs deeper. Where does this feeling come from? Muscles contract through biology, neurons fire through chemistry, but at some point a signal transforms into the intimate conviction that I am the one who chose. The strangeness lies in how delicate this perception truly is. Under hypnosis, suggestion, or even the grip of strong emotion, people can act while believing the choice was entirely theirs. The brain weaves ownership into the fabric of experience so seamlessly that you never stop to question it. And yet, the internal sense of agency is only a shimmer, a construction of mind. It gives you the dignity of freedom, the belief in control, the feeling that life is authored by your hand. Even as deeper, hidden forces may already be pulling the strings. Loss of agency with brain damage. Loss of agency with brain damage reveals the terrifying fragility of control. A single injury, a stroke, or a lesion in just the wrong place, and the seamless illusion of being the author of your own actions can shatter. People find their hands moving against their will, their speech slipping out in ways they didn't intend, their bodies performing acts they swear they did not choose. Some describe their limbs as strangers, moving with a will of their own, while they watch helplessly from inside. This loss is devastating because agency is the heartbeat of identity. You believe you steer your life, you decide, you choose, you act. But when brain damage severs that link, you see how thin and fragile it really is. The mind scrambles to explain, sometimes inventing stories to justify movements it never commanded, grasping to preserve the illusion of control. The truth, though, is brutal. Without intact brain circuits, the sense of will collapses. Witnessing this strips away the comforting belief that freedom lives in some untouchable soul. Instead, it shows how your ability to act, to decide, to be you, depends on fragile biology that can fracture in an instant. It is a cruel mirror, reflecting not the strength of self, but its dependence on delicate, breakable tissue. To lose agency through brain damage is not just to lose control of movement. It is to watch the core of personhood unravel, leaving behind a haunting question. If choice can vanish with an injury, was it ever truly yours to begin with? Blindsight Abilities. Blindsight Abilities expose one of the most haunting fractures between perception and awareness. People with damage to the visual cortex insist they cannot see, yet, when asked to guess the location of an object, the direction of movement, or even the emotion on a face, they succeed far beyond chance. They move through a world they swear is dark, and still, some part of their brain continues to see. Sight without seeing, vision without awareness, a ghost perception lingering in the shadows of the mind. This strange ability shatters the belief that consciousness is necessary for experience. The eyes capture light, the brain processes signals, and the body reacts, yet the mind, the you that feels and knows, remains excluded. It is as if awareness arrives late to its own senses, a guest in the house of the brain rather than its master. Blind sight reveals that your conscious world is only a fraction of what the brain perceives, that beneath the surface, another you is navigating silently. The emotional weight of blind sight lies in what it suggests. That much of life may be lived without you truly knowing it. The body acts, the brain decides, and consciousness takes the credit only afterward. If vision itself can split into seen and unseen, how much of your daily life is guided by senses you never even feel? Blindsight abilities stand as a chilling reminder that awareness is not the full story of the mind, but only a thin window opening onto a vast world of hidden perception where you are never truly in control. Unconscious biases. Unconscious biases are the hidden currents steering thoughts, judgments, and actions without your permission. You walk into a room, meet a stranger, hear a voice, and before a single conscious thought forms, your brain has already drawn conclusions. Favor, suspicion, attraction, or discomfort flickers through you like lightning, shaping the way you respond while you remain convinced you are being fair, rational, and objective. These biases do not announce themselves. They whisper beneath awareness, guiding choices from the shadows. What makes them haunting is how deeply they are woven into the fabric of experience. Centuries of culture, survival instincts, and personal history shape patterns of thought so subtle you barely notice them. You may genuinely believe you treat everyone equally, yet your behavior may betray hidden preferences, who you trust, who you fear, who you believe without question. Biases seep into hiring decisions, justice systems, friendships, even love, bending the arc of lives without ever showing their face. The unsettling truth is that unconscious biases are not just flaws of character, but features of the brain itself, shortcuts carved by evolution to make split-second judgments. They once protected us in a dangerous world, but now they often mislead, causing harm while disguised as intuition. What chills most is the realization that even when you know they exist, you cannot simply switch them off. They operate like shadows behind the spotlight of awareness, unseen yet unavoidable, shaping reality before you even open your eyes to it. Unconscious biases expose the disturbing gap between who you believe you are and the invisible forces within that quietly decide for you. Synesthetic Perception. Synesthetic perception is a doorway into a world most will never touch, a collision of senses where boundaries collapse. For those who experience it, numbers glow with colors, music spills into shapes, words carry tastes, and time itself may swirl as a vast landscape in the mind. A simple sound can explode into a shower of color, a letter can shimmer with personality, and the ordinary fabric of reality becomes a woven tapestry of cross sensations. What others perceive as separate channels, sight, sound, taste, touch, fuse into a single, vibrant stream. This phenomenon unsettles because it reveals how arbitrary the borders of perception really are. We assume vision belongs only to the eyes, sound only to the ears, but synesthesia exposes how fluid the mind can be, how senses can intertwine in ways that feel both alien and magical. To a synesthete, the world is not flat. It is alive with textures, hidden to others, as though consciousness itself paints extra dimensions onto reality. Yet synesthesia also raises deeper questions. Are the rest of us blind to a richness that exists but goes unnoticed? Do our senses deliver only a narrow slice of what could be, with the brain filtering most of it away? The existence of synesthetic perception suggests that reality is not a fixed experience, but a shifting canvas, one the brain edits before you ever see it. It is both enchanting and disorienting, proof that even the simplest act of perceiving is not a window to the world, but a creation of the mind, unique, unrepeatable, and deeply mysterious. Ineffable experiences. Ineffable experiences are moments so raw, so overwhelming, they slip beyond the reach of language. You try to explain them. The breathtaking awe of standing before a vast mountain, the shiver of first love, the crushing silence of grief, the sacred vastness felt in meditation or psychedelics, and words collapse. They come out thin, pale imitations of something immense and indescribable. What you felt was infinite, uncontainable, but when you speak it, it shrinks into cliches. It was amazing. It was terrifying. It was beyond words. And it truly was. These experiences haunt you because they reveal the limits of communication, the boundary where language can go no further. You live them vividly, their force carving itself into memory, but you cannot hand them to another person. You cannot download the burning beauty of a sunset into their mind, nor transmit the hollow ache of your deepest sorrow. These moments belong only to you, sealed in silence, bursting inside your chest, but invisible to everyone else. The ineffable has a strange power. It feels closer to truth than anything you can explain. People who encounter the indescribable often insist it was the most real thing they've ever known, more real than daily life, and yet they cannot prove it, cannot share it, cannot fully recall it themselves. Ineffable experiences expose the fragility of language, the solitude of inner life, and the strange fact that the most powerful parts of being human are also the ones that can never truly be spoken. Subliminal influence. Subliminal influence is the eerie reminder that your mind is never fully your own. Hidden messages, barely noticeable images, fleeting sounds, and subtle cues slip beneath the threshold of awareness, yet they still shape what you think, feel, and choose. You might walk past a billboard and later crave a product without realizing the seed was planted. A whispered suggestion, a flash of text too quick to notice, the framing of a word, all bypass your conscious defenses, lodging themselves in the unconscious where decisions are quietly sculpted. What makes subliminal influence so unsettling is how powerless it makes you. You believe your choices are deliberate, the result of reason and free will, but unseen nudges are steering you. A logo in the corner of your eye makes you feel trust. A color in the background shifts your mood. A piece of music primes you for nostalgia or sadness. You don't know it happened, but your mind bends anyway. The emotional weight of this mystery is the realization that you are open to manipulation without ever sensing it. Politicians, advertisers, and influencers understand this, embedding cues designed to bypass your awareness and sink straight into the roots of decision-making. You carry the illusion of control while invisible hands shape your desires. Subliminal influence reveals the fragility of autonomy, showing that beneath the surface, your mind is porous, vulnerable, and easily rewritten. It is a chilling truth. You are never just choosing. You are always being guided by whispers you cannot hear. Ultimate feel of mystical states. The ultimate feel of mystical states is a plunge into a reality so overwhelming it shatters the ordinary boundaries of mind. In these moments, the self dissolves, time evaporates, and the world seems to expand into something infinite. People describe it as union with God, oneness with the universe, or simply an unshakable sense that they have touched a truth beyond words. The experience floods the heart with awe, love, and a terrifying intimacy, as though the veil of the ordinary world has been torn away to reveal what has always been hidden. What makes these states so gripping is their undeniable realness. Those who experience them often insist it was more real than waking life, more solid, more luminous than anything they had ever known. Tears flow, laughter bursts, silence feels holy, the sense of self shrinks to nothing, yet paradoxically, the experiencer feels larger than life itself. Whether reached through prayer, meditation, fasting, or psychedelics, the result is the same, an encounter that feels ultimate, unshakable, eternal. The haunting power of mystical states lies in their aftermath. People return to their ordinary lives forever changed, carrying a memory they cannot explain, yet cannot dismiss. Was it merely the brain in an altered state, neurons misfiring into illusion, or was it a fleeting glimpse of a deeper reality, one that language and science can never touch? The ultimate feel of mystical states lingers like a scar and a blessing, proof that consciousness can crack open into something vast, terrifying, and unspeakably beautiful. Revelatory sense of psychedelics. The revelatory sense of psychedelics is one of the most profound and unnerving experiences a mind can endure. Under their influence, the ordinary world cracks open, and what spills out feels less like hallucination and more like truth revealed. Walls breathe, colors pulse with impossible life, patterns stretch into infinity, and yet these visions do not feel like fabrications. They feel like revelations, as though hidden layers of reality have finally been unveiled. People emerge from these states convinced they have touched something ultimate, the unity of all things, the presence of the divine, the raw architecture of consciousness itself. In moments of dissolution, the self melts into everything, and the boundaries that once seemed solid between body and world, between thought and matter, dissolve into pure awareness. The insights arrive not as fragile thoughts, but as thunderous certainties, seared into memory with the force of destiny. What makes this so haunting is the lingering aftertaste. Long after the drug fades, the conviction remains. People speak of encountering entities, communing with cosmic intelligence, seeing the mechanics of reality laid bare. Even skeptics return shaken, unable to dismiss the sheer realness of what they felt. Science describes neurotransmitters, receptor sites, and altered brain networks, but none of this accounts for the overwhelming conviction that the veil of ordinary life has been pierced. Were these only chemical storms or glimpses into hidden truths? The revelatory sense of psychedelics lingers like a riddle, leaving those who experience it torn between wonder and doubt, forever marked by the possibility that they saw more than just illusions. Inability to measure consciousness. The inability to measure consciousness is one of the most unsettling truths in science. We can track brainwaves, record electrical spikes, and map neural networks with exquisite precision, yet none of these reveal the raw feeling of being alive. Instruments can tell us when neurons fire, but they cannot tell us what it's like to taste sweetness, to ache with loneliness, or to feel the warmth of sunlight on skin. Consciousness slips through every measuring device, existing in a realm beyond graphs, numbers, and machines. This limitation is terrifying because it leaves us blind to the most important aspect of existence. We can measure almost everything else in the universe, the speed of light, the spin of particles, the birth of galaxies, but not the inner spark that makes experience real. If someone claims to feel joy or despair, we cannot prove it. We can only trust their words, their expressions, their behavior. Consciousness remains locked inside, a private kingdom no science can breach. This gap between the measurable and the felt makes consciousness both fragile and haunting. It raises dark possibilities. What if other beings, animals, machines, even people, suffer or feel joy without us ever knowing? What if consciousness can flicker out, erase without leaving a trace detectable by any test? The inability to measure it means we can never truly pin it down, never fully know where it begins or ends. And so, the most intimate reality we live within remains the most elusive, a presence that science can circle endlessly but never capture, like chasing a ghost that refuses to be caught. Uncertainty of other minds. The uncertainty of other minds is one of the most haunting riddles of human existence. You look into another's eyes, you hear their voice, you see their laughter and tears, but you can never enter their awareness. You assume they feel as you do, that their joy is like your joy, that their pain burns like your pain, but you cannot know. Their inner world is locked away, sealed inside a silence that no word or gesture can fully break. This gap creates an ache of loneliness that hides beneath every connection. You may hold someone close, feel their heartbeat, listen to their secrets, and still be separated by an invisible wall. You can share experiences, but not the raw texture of those experiences. Their red may not be your red, their grief may not be your grief, and though you live surrounded by people, you walk forever alone inside your own private sky. The uncertainty deepens with thought of extremes. Does an animal feel the world the way you do, or is its life only instinct and motion? Does a newborn truly experience or only react? Could someone you love most deeply be nothing more than an intricate machine of flesh, acting alive but empty within? You cannot pierce the veil to know for certain. The uncertainty of other minds is the silent tension that underlies love, empathy, trust, and even morality. You reach toward others endlessly, building bridges of words and touch, but always at the edge of knowing, you face the abyss, the possibility that no one's inner world can ever truly meet your own. Elusiveness of definition. The elusiveness of definition when it comes to consciousness is a mystery that frustrates both science and philosophy. We can describe its features, point to its effects, even measure its neural correlates, but the moment we try to pin it down, it slips away like smoke. Is consciousness awareness? Is it self-reflection? Is it the ability to feel? Every attempt to define it feels incomplete, too narrow, too shallow to capture the vastness of lived experience. This slipperiness is not just academic. It cuts into the core of your existence. You know what it feels like to be aware, more intimately than you know anything else. Yet, you cannot express it in a way that satisfies. The simplest child understands being awake and alive, but the greatest thinkers have failed to trap it in words. It is both the most obvious thing and the most mysterious, a paradox that makes the mind ache. The emotional sting of this elusiveness is the loneliness it brings. You live inside a world of sensations, thoughts, and feelings that are undeniably real to you, yet indefinable to others. You cannot carry your consciousness outside yourself, cannot show it, cannot prove it. The very essence of your being refuses to be boxed, measured, or labeled. The elusiveness of definition reminds you that the thing you are most certain of, your own awareness, is also the thing you can never fully explain, a mystery that hums quietly inside you, forever beyond the reach of language. Persistence of Panpsychism. The persistence of Panpsychism is one of the most haunting testaments to the failure of simple explanations. Panpsychism is the ancient radical idea that consciousness is not confined to human brains or even to living beings, but is woven into the very fabric of existence. According to this view, every particle, every atom, every star and stone carries within it a flicker of awareness, however faint, forming the raw building blocks of experience itself. To the modern mind, this seems absurd. How could a rock or an electron possess even the smallest whisper of inner life? And yet, the idea refuses to die. Despite centuries of scientific progress, the hard problem of consciousness remains unsolved. Neurons explain behavior, circuits explain function, but the leap from matter to mind remains a chasm no theory can bridge. Panpsychism, unsettling as it sounds, sidesteps the gap entirely. If consciousness is fundamental, like mass or charge, then the mystery is not how matter generates mind, but how tiny sparks of awareness combine to form the blaze of human experience. What grips so many is not proof, but the eerie resonance of the idea. It reframes the universe as something alive, breathing with hidden subjectivity. The wind through the trees, the hum of the ocean, the stillness of mountains, suddenly all feel like echoes of a vast interiority beyond human sight. To embrace panpsychism is to see yourself not as an exception, but as part of a continuum of awareness stretching across existence. The persistence of this idea reveals something deep and unsettling. Perhaps consciousness is not a rare accident in the cosmos, but its most fundamental truth, hiding everywhere in everything. Materialism's difficulty with subjectivity. Materialism's difficulty with subjectivity is a wound at the heart of modern thought. According to materialism, everything about you, your thoughts, your feelings, your very sense of self, arises from physical processes in the brain. Neurons fire, chemicals move, circuits hum, and somehow out of this machinery emerges the taste of chocolate, the ache of grief, the beauty of a sunset. But here lies the fracture. While materialism explains the mechanics, it cannot touch the experience. No formula or brain scan has ever captured the redness of red, the sting of betrayal, or the quiet warmth of being loved. This gap, known as the hard problem, unsettles because it leaves subjectivity dangling outside the world of facts. Science excels at describing objects, patterns, and causes, but consciousness is not just another object. It is the stage where all objects appear. You can dissect the brain endlessly, yet the inner glow of awareness resists reduction. To reduce love to dopamine or sorrow to serotonin feels like missing the point, stripping away the essence of what it means to feel at all. This difficulty haunts materialism with an unspoken question: is consciousness more than matter? If subjectivity cannot be explained by physical processes alone, then perhaps something deeper pulses beneath reality, something that matter alone cannot account for. Materialism insists that the brain produces the mind, but the stubborn richness of experience whispers otherwise, leaving us caught in a tension that no science, no philosophy, no equation has yet resolved. It is a riddle that gnaws at the edges of certainty, a reminder that the very thing we live through most directly cannot be fully explained by the world we measure. Endurance of dualism. The endurance of dualism lingers like a ghost in philosophy, religion, and even everyday thought. No matter how much science explains the brain, people cannot shake the feeling that mind and body are separate things. You point to your chest when speaking of love, to your head when speaking of thought, as though you live somewhere other than the flesh. The body feels mechanical, heavy, bound by time, while the mind feels weightless, ungraspable, a stream of awareness that cannot be touched. This split is so instinctive, it survives every argument against it. Dualism refuses to die because it matches experience. You feel the ache in your body, but you also feel yourself feeling it. You move your arm, but behind the movement is the sense of an invisible you choosing to act. The mind seems to hover above matter, like a pilot steering a vessel, like a ghost riding inside a machine. Even knowing that neurons and chemicals shape every thought, the feeling of separateness persists, whispering that the self is something more than circuits of flesh. This endurance unsettles because it raises questions that science cannot yet close. If mind is only brain, why does it feel like something more? If self is just matter, why does it feel untethered, capable of dreams and visions far beyond its biological shell? Dualism holds its ground because it resonates with the deepest intuition that behind the body lies something luminous, untouchable, perhaps eternal. Whether illusion or truth, it endures, a haunting reminder that the line between matter and spirit may never fully fade. Arguments for illusionism strike at the very foundation of what it means to be alive. Illusionists claim that consciousness, the vivid stream of colors, feelings, and inner voices you hold most dear, is not what it seems. According to them, your awareness is not a glowing inner theater, but a trick of the brain, a story it tells itself, so you believe there is more than neural machinery firing in silence. The redness of a rose, the sweetness of music, the sting of pain, these, they say, are not inner realities, but constructed fictions, convenient hallucinations that help your mind navigate the world. What makes this idea so disturbing is how directly it contradicts your most intimate certainty. You may doubt the world outside, but you cannot doubt that you feel something right here, right now. To be told this undeniable something is an illusion feels like having the ground pulled from beneath you. Yet, illusionists point to the evidence. The brain often generates perceptions that are false, fills gaps with guesses, invents explanations after the fact. If the mind tricks you in small ways constantly, why not in the largest way of all, making you believe in consciousness itself? The emotional weight of illusionism is unbearable because it challenges the very flame of selfhood. If consciousness is a fabrication, then what are you? A machine that dreams it is alive? A body that mistakes noise for song? Arguments for illusionism whisper a terrifying possibility that the private glow you treasure most deeply is not a window to reality, but a mirage shimmering in the desert of the mind. Intuition against illusionism strikes at the heart of the claim that consciousness is nothing more than a trick of the brain. Illusionism argues that our inner world, colors, feelings, sensations, is not real, just a clever fabrication, an evolutionary sleight of hand. But your intuition rises up in revolt. How could pain be an illusion when it burns so fiercely? How could love be a phantom when it shakes your chest and leaves you trembling? Illusionism whispers that the self you cling to does not truly exist, but your gut screams otherwise, clinging to the undeniable immediacy of experience. This tension is what makes the debate so unnerving. You can accept that perception can be fooled, that memory can falter, that the brain constructs models of reality. Yet, even if every perception were wrong, the feeling of it still remains undeniable, raw. To call it illusion is to strip away the only thing you can never doubt, that something is happening within you. It feels like being told the ground beneath your feet is imaginary while you feel its solid weight pressing back against you. Intuition against illusionism is more than stubborn resistance. It is survival. Consciousness is the core of what it means to exist, and to dismiss it as trickery feels like erasing the very essence of being. Even when philosophers and scientists argue for illusion, the lived experience rebels, demanding recognition. The struggle between theory and intuition leaves you caught in the strangest paradox of all. The only thing you are most certain of is the very thing some insist is not real. The hard problem of consciousness is the most unsettling question in philosophy and science. It asks how raw experience, the taste of coffee, the sound of rain, the pang of sorrow, arises from physical matter. We can explain the easy problems, how the brain processes information, how it guides movement, how it reacts to light, sound, and touch. But none of that touches the core mystery. Why any of it should feel like something. Why does electrical activity in the brain not remain dark and silent, but instead explode into a private universe of sensation? This question gnaws at the edges of reason because it points to a gap between what we can measure and what we live. We can track every signal racing through the brain and still be no closer to understanding the inner glow of awareness. The hard problem whispers that the essence of experience may not be physical at all, or at least not in a way we yet understand. It exposes the eerie possibility that science, for all its power, may never capture the thing most intimate to us. What makes this problem haunting is its intimacy. You don't need proof of consciousness. You are drowning in it every second. It is the only reality you cannot deny, and yet it is the one thing that resists explanation entirely. To face the hard problem is to stand at the edge of an abyss, staring into the haunting possibility that the most obvious fact of existence, the simple fact that you feel, may forever defy the grasp of human knowledge. Irreducibility of Qualia. The irreducibility of qualia is one of the sharpest wounds in the mystery of consciousness. You can explain how light enters the eye, how the retina converts it to signals, how the brain processes shapes and colors, but none of that explains what it feels like to see red. The raw what it's like of experience, this searing redness, the sweetness of sugar, the sting of pain, the warmth of sunlight, is something no equation or map of neurons can capture. These inner textures, called qualia, stand like stubborn flames, impossible to reduce to circuitry or chemistry. The haunting part is that qualia are the only things you truly know. You could doubt the entire external world, doubt every fact you've been told, but you cannot doubt the immediate feel of your own experience, that undeniable presence, the way a melody shimmers in your chest, the way bitterness bites on your tongue, cannot be denied or explained away. And yet, science treats them like phantoms, real for you, but invisible to the instruments that measure reality. This irreducibility creates a fracture between knowledge and life. You can dissect the brain endlessly, but the very thing you're trying to understand slips through the cracks. It is as if consciousness guards its deepest secret, offering you sensations but refusing to reveal their source. The irreducibility of qualia makes existence unbearably intimate. Everything you know of the world comes to you dressed in these private feelings, yet no one else can ever touch them, and no science can ever fully explain them. Continuity of experience. The continuity of experience is one of the most fragile illusions holding your sense of self together. From the moment you wake until the moment you sleep, life feels like a flowing river, smooth, unbroken, endlessly moving forward. You feel as though you are the same you from one instant to the next, carried along by a seamless stream of awareness. Yet beneath this perception lies a startling truth. The brain does not work in a continuous flow. It pulses, it flickers, it operates in bursts of electrical activity, stitching together moments the way a film reel turns still frames into motion. What unsettles the soul is how convincing the illusion is. You never notice the gaps, never feel the stitching. You walk, talk, think, and love as though consciousness is whole. Yet behind the curtain, it may be fractured into pieces you will never see. It is as if the self is less a solid identity and more a fragile performance, a story being written frame by frame and sold to you as continuity. This mystery reveals how delicate your existence really is. If experience is patched together moment by moment, then what holds you together? Are you truly the same person who woke this morning, or just the next flicker in a sequence that feels continuous? The continuity of experience masks a terrifying fragility that at any instant the thread could snap and the flow you cling to as yourself would dissolve into the silence between frames, leaving nothing but fragments scattered in the dark. Richness beyond report. Richness beyond report is the unsettling truth that what you experience inside your mind far exceeds what you can ever put into words. A sunset floods your vision with shades that no language can capture, yet, when you describe it, your words flatten it into pale fragments. A dream unravels in vivid detail, but the moment you wake, most of it vanishes, leaving only scraps behind. Even in the brightest moments of joy or the deepest waves of sorrow, What you feel is oceans larger than what you can ever explain. This gap between experience and expression is haunting because it reveals how private, how unreachable your inner life truly is. Others may nod when you speak of beauty, grief, or wonder, but they will never touch the exact texture of your moment, the way it unfolded in the silence of your mind. What lives inside you is richer, deeper, and more complex than anything that can be passed from tongue to ear. The richness beyond report is what makes poetry stumble, art strain, and music soar, all attempts to hint at the immensity of what cannot be told. It is the reason lovers fall silent, holding each other in moments too vast for words. It is why trauma lingers unspoken, its weight too heavy for sentences to carry. The mind holds universes that cannot be exported, entire worlds locked within a single skull. To live is to swim in that endless richness, knowing that even if you scream or write or sing, the truest essence of your experience will always remain yours alone, a secret reality no one else can ever fully share. Forgetting most lived moments. Forgetting most lived moments is one of the quiet tragedies of existence. You have lived through tens of thousands of days, millions of hours, yet only a fragile handful of them remain accessible in memory. The vast majority of your life, conversations, sensations, little joys and sorrows, has slipped into darkness, never to be recalled. You may have once felt a breeze on a childhood morning, laughed with a friend you can no longer name, or cried under a sky you've long forgotten. But all of it has dissolved into silence, leaving only scattered fragments to remind you that you were ever there at all. This amnesia of the ordinary is cruel because those forgotten moments were once as vivid as the ones you remember. Every heartbeat, every blink, every fleeting thought mattered to the person you were then, yet they vanish as if they never happened, and still they shaped you. Each lost instant left invisible marks, sculpting your character, your choices, your path, even though you will never recall them. You are built from experiences you cannot remember, carrying the weight of a past that is gone, but not gone, hidden but still alive in the folds of your being. The realization is haunting. Most of your life is gone, not because it ended, but because it slipped from your grasp, erased by the very brain that lived it. In the end, you are left with fragments, bright, painful, sweet, but the full story of your existence remains locked away, leaving you as much a stranger to your own past as to anyone else's. Spotlight-like attention. Spotlight-like attention is the strange way consciousness narrows itself, illuminating one fragment of reality while leaving everything else to fade into the dark. You can be in a crowded room full of voices, footsteps, and flickering lights, yet when someone speaks your name, the mind swings its beam, locking onto that single sound as if nothing else exists. Attention doesn't simply observe, it transforms. What falls under its glow sharpens, brightens, becomes realer, while everything outside it dissolves into a blur you barely register. This spotlight is both a gift and a limitation. It allows you to focus, to learn, to survive in a storm of endless stimuli, but it also reveals how fragile your perception truly is. While you attend to one detail, you miss 1,000 others. You look but do not see. You listen but do not hear until the beam of your awareness shifts again. In this sense, attention is less a mirror of reality than a filter, choosing what gets to exist in your inner world and what gets cast into shadow. What makes it haunting is how easily the beam can be hijacked. A sudden movement, a flash of color, a whisper of threat, and the spotlight jerks away from your control. It is as if awareness is not entirely yours, but a creature easily startled, dragged, and manipulated. Spotlight-like attention is the reminder that what you call reality is only what you notice, and that most of the world, the vast richness all around you, remains unseen, waiting forever outside the narrow circle of your gaze. Fragmentation in multitasking reveals the shattering limits of attention. You like to believe you can juggle tasks, splitting your mind between a conversation, a screen, a thought, but what actually happens is far more fractured. The brain does not truly do two things at once. It switches, tearing awareness back and forth, slicing the flow of consciousness into fragments. Each switch costs you presence. Each shift leaves tiny cracks in the illusion of focus. You answer an email while listening to a friend, and neither gets the fullness of you. The unsettling truth is how much this drains the soul. Multitasking feels like control, like efficiency, but inside it leaves you scattered, restless, unfinished. Your thoughts stutter, your awareness fractures, your sense of self feels spread thin, stretched across too many demands. The more you try to hold, the more pieces of you slip away, leaving a hollow ache of incompleteness. What makes this so haunting is the illusion of success. You think you are managing, balancing, keeping up, but beneath the surface, your mind is fraying, your memory weakening, your attention bleeding out in fragments. You become a ghost in your own life, half present in every moment, never whole in any. Fragmentation in multitasking is a quiet erosion of consciousness, showing that even as you try to be everywhere at once, you are nowhere fully. It is the silent theft of depth, leaving you spread across the surface of your days, unable to sink into the fullness of now. The limits of focus expose just how fragile and narrow human awareness truly is. You imagine yourself capable of absorbing the world, yet at any given moment, your conscious spotlight can only hold a sliver of it. Out of billions of sensations flooding your senses, sounds, sights, textures, smells, your mind filters almost all of it away, leaving you with the faint illusion of a complete picture. What you call reality is not the vast world around you, but the thin thread of attention you are able to grasp. This narrow beam can feel like both power and prison. When you are locked into a task, the rest of existence dissolves, vanishing from awareness as though it were never there. Entire conversations blur into noise. Faces go unnoticed, dangers pass unseen. You may drive a familiar road only to realize you remember nothing of the journey, your focus swallowed by wandering thoughts. The world continues, vast and alive, while you remain trapped inside the tiny chamber of what you happen to notice. What unsettles most is how easily this fragile faculty can be bent or broken. A sudden sound, a flash of movement, an intrusive thought can rip your focus away, reminding you that control is never absolute. Attention feels like command, but in truth, it flickers, falters, and fails, exposing how small your conscious grasp really is. The limits of focus reveal the unsettling truth that life is mostly lived outside awareness. What you call the present is not the whole story, but a carefully carved fragment, leaving the vast majority of reality to pass by unseen, unremembered, untouched. Attention distinct from awareness. Attention distinct from awareness exposes a fracture in the way you experience reality. Awareness is vast, a wide-open field where countless sensations, thoughts, and feelings drift at once. Yet, attention is narrow, a sharp spotlight that chooses only one corner of that field to illuminate. You may be aware of the hum of a fan, the weight of your body, the distant chatter outside, but unless attention turns toward them, they remain like shadows at the edge of consciousness. This separation is unsettling because it shows how little of life you actually grasp in the moment. Awareness gives you the raw material of experience, but attention edits it, selecting only fragments while the rest fades into the background. In a single instant, whole worlds slip away unseen. You could be surrounded by beauty, danger, or wonder, and still miss it entirely because your spotlight was fixed elsewhere. And yet, attention feels like the center of consciousness, tricking you into believing what you focus on is all that exists. The truth is far stranger. Awareness holds everything, while attention shrinks it to a threadbare stream you can handle. It means that what you call your experience is not the whole of what you perceive, but the tiny slice that your mind decided to highlight. This gap between awareness and attention reveals how much of life you unknowingly leave behind, how reality is always richer than the part you notice, and how fragile your grasp on the fullness of the moment truly is. Spontaneous arising of thoughts. The spontaneous arising of thoughts is one of the strangest betrayals of the self. You sit in silence, you try to still your mind, and suddenly, there it is, a memory, an image, a song lyric, a cruel doubt, a secret desire. Thoughts bloom uninvited, flooding your awareness as if from nowhere, yet you call them yours. They appear like intruders, and still you take ownership, saying, "I thought this," when in truth, you never chose it. This constant eruption reveals how little control you truly have over your own mind. You don't decide the next word that will echo in your head, the next fear that will strike, or the next idea that will inspire you. They surface like bubbles rising from the depths of an ocean you cannot see, each one carrying fragments of your past, your hopes, your instincts, or something altogether foreign. The mind whispers endlessly, and you follow, believing yourself the author of what is handed to you. The unsettling part is how powerful these unbidden thoughts can be. A single one can ruin your peace, spiral into obsession, ignite shame, or spark brilliance that changes your life. They arrive without warning and vanish just as quickly, leaving you to wonder, if you are not the one choosing them, then who or what is? The spontaneous arising of thoughts reveals the mind as a mystery machine, endlessly creating, endlessly speaking, while the self listens in, never certain whether it is the master or just another thought among the noise. Meaning in mind wandering. Meaning in mind wandering is one of the strangest paradoxes of the mind. You drift, unanchored, thoughts unraveling in tangled paths, memories, fantasies, fears, and fragments of unfinished conversations. On the surface, it looks like noise, the brain idling without purpose, yet inside those wandering streams, meaning often blooms. A sudden insight appears out of nowhere, a creative spark ignites, or a memory long buried rises with unexpected clarity. What felt like aimless drifting becomes a quiet birthplace of revelation. The emotional weight of this lies in how much of yourself is discovered in those wanderings. The mind, when left unchained, reveals the things you push down in daily life, the hidden desires, the unresolved grief, the fragile hopes. It stitches together past and present, weaving stories you didn't know you were carrying. You may feel guilty for daydreaming, for drifting off, but in those stolen moments, you meet the parts of yourself that structured thought cannot reach. Mind wandering also carries a haunting intimacy. It reminds you that your private world is vast and untamed, a place where you replay what you regret, reimagine what you've lost, and construct futures that may never arrive. The meanings you find in those wanderings are fragile and deeply personal, often impossible to explain, but they shape who you are more than you realize. Meaning in mind wandering shows that even in your most unfocused moments, your consciousness is not idle. It is searching, weaving, and whispering truths you may only hear when you stop trying to control your thoughts. Emotional depth of daydreams. The emotional depth of daydreams reveals the strange power of a mind untethered from the present. You can be sitting in a classroom, stuck in traffic, or lying in bed, and suddenly you are swept into a private world of your own making. A single thought unfurls into a vivid scene, an imagined love, a triumphant future, a longed-for revenge, and the emotions it stirs feel as sharp and real as anything in waking life. Your heart races, your chest warms, your throat tightens, all from visions that exist nowhere but in the folds of imagination. Daydreams are not harmless fluff. They are portals where the unconscious leaks into consciousness. They reveal desires you cannot voice, fears you cannot face, hopes you cannot abandon. In those drifting moments, you are both playwright and actor, weaving stories that never happened yet, carry the full weight of lived truth. A fantasy of success leaves you glowing with pride. An imagined rejection leaves you aching with pain. The body does not distinguish between what is real and what is vividly conjured. The dream burns as deeply as the memory. What makes this so haunting is the intimacy of it. No one else will ever see the landscapes you wander when your eyes glaze over. Yet these hidden stories shape who you are. They influence your choices, feed your longings, and carve paths in your heart as surely as real events. The emotional depth of daydreams exposes the mind's raw power to blur reality and fantasy, reminding you that some of your most powerful experiences may never exist outside your imagination. Perceptual quality of imagination. The perceptual quality of imagination is a riddle that blurs the line between reality and the mind's private theater. Close your eyes and picture a flame. You see it flicker, feel its warmth, maybe even hear the faint crackle of burning wood. Nothing is there, yet something undeniable unfolds inside you, vivid enough to stir emotion, memory, even desire. Imagination is not empty thought. It is perception without the world, a conjuring trick where the brain paints images, sounds, and sensations as if they were real. This mystery is haunting because it exposes the fragility of the senses you trust most. If the mind can summon sights and sounds from nothing, how can you be certain that what you see now is not another projection? The imagined flame and the real flame share a stage. The difference is only intensity. Your brain is the artist, capable of sketching experiences so lifelike they can fool the body into sweating, trembling, or weeping, all without a single external cause. And still, imagination is not just a shadow of reality. It is often more powerful. It allows you to relive a kiss long gone, to ache for futures that haven't arrived, to create entire worlds no one else can touch. It is the birthplace of art, story, and invention, where unreal things gain a force strong enough to change the real world. The perceptual quality of imagination reveals a staggering truth. The line between what is seen and what is dreamed is thinner than you dare believe, and both are woven from the same mysterious fabric of mind. Variation in mental imagery. Variation in mental imagery exposes just how uneven the inner world can be from one person to another. Close your eyes and picture a rose. Some people see it vividly, every petal drenched in color, dew glistening on its surface, as sharp as if it were real. For others, the rose is faint, blurred, little more than a ghostly outline, and for some, there is nothing at all but darkness. This vast spectrum of imagery, ranging from hyper-vivid visions to complete aphantasia, shows that even the most basic act of imagination is not universal. The unsettling truth is that most people assume their way of seeing is the way everyone sees. You speak of picturing it in your head, not realizing that for another person, that phrase means something entirely different. For some, imagination is a private cinema where memories replay in high definition. For others, it is abstract and word-based, more like describing than seeing, and both believe they are normal, never suspecting the hidden gulf between them. What makes this variation haunting is its intimacy. Your inner imagery colors the way you dream, remember, desire, and even think. To live without mental pictures is to navigate the world through a different kind of mind, one that never sees what it imagines. To live with overwhelming imagery is to carry a flood of visions that sometimes blur into waking life. This difference cannot be seen, cannot be measured from the outside, yet it shapes the most private corners of existence, leaving each of us trapped in a uniquely tinted inner world. Aphantasia. Aphantasia is the haunting absence of inner imagery. the inability to see with the mind's eye. For most people, closing their eyes and picturing a loved one's face, a childhood home, or a glowing sunset summons a private theater of images. But for those with aphantasia, there is only darkness. No faces appear, no scenes unfold, no inner canvas to paint upon. Memories are stored as facts, not pictures, leaving life oddly stripped of the vividness that others take for granted. What makes aphantasia so disorienting is not just the absence itself, but the realization that others live in worlds of imagination you cannot enter. When they recall, they see. When they dream awake, they visualize in color and detail. For someone with aphantasia, memory is like reading a diary without illustrations, knowledge without the glow of sensation. Love is remembered without the sparkle of eyes, grief without the picture of what was lost. And yet, this absence reshapes the soul in quiet, mysterious ways. Some with aphantasia become highly logical, leaning on structure and words instead of images. Others discover creativity in sound, movement, or abstract thought, proving imagination does not die without pictures. It transforms. Still, the awareness of this invisible gap carries an ache, a sense of missing something essential. Aphantasia reveals the fragility and strangeness of consciousness, that even in the same world, each mind lives in a private universe, some painted in radiant visions, others forever veiled in silent dark. Hyperphantasia. Hyperphantasia is the dazzling flood of a mind that paints images with overwhelming vividness. For those who live with it, imagination is not faint or ghost-like. It is radiant, as sharp and alive as the world outside their eyes. A memory of childhood does not arrive as a hazy outline, but as a full panorama. The exact shade of the sky, the texture of the air, the glint of light on a window. To picture a loved one is to see them standing before you, every detail clear, every feature luminous, as though reality itself has been summoned from within. This gift can feel like magic, a secret cinema, forever playing behind closed eyes. Artists, writers, dreamers often describe their visions with awe, as though their creativity comes not from invention, but from simply watching the theater of their own minds. But the intensity carries weight. For some, the flood of imagery can be exhausting, even overwhelming. Memories replaying too vividly, intrusive scenes crashing uninvited, imagination refusing to rest. What makes hyperphantasia so haunting is the reminder that reality is not only out there, but also in here, sculpted by the power of the mind's eye. It blurs the boundary between perception and imagination, between remembering and reliving. For those who carry it, the inner world is not dim or abstract, but as richly textured as waking life, a second universe that shines in secret. Hyperphantasia exposes the staggering force of consciousness, the ability to create worlds as brilliant, as detailed, and as moving as the one we call real. Auditory feel of inner speech. The auditory feel of inner speech is one of the strangest illusions of the mind. When you talk to yourself silently, it doesn't come as abstract symbols or raw thought. It arrives as a voice. You hear it, not with your ears, but with some hidden chamber inside your head, a private echo chamber where words resound without sound. It carries tone, rhythm, even accent, sometimes your own, sometimes another's, and yet no air vibrates, no waves travel, no sound exists. The voice lives only in the theater of consciousness, convincing enough to feel real. This phenomenon unsettles because it exposes the way the brain borrows perception to shape thought. Instead of pure, wordless knowing, your mind chooses to cloak ideas in the texture of speech, as if it must first listen to itself to understand. It means that even within your own head, you communicate not just with thoughts, but with the ghostly voice of yourself, or at times voices that don't feel entirely your own. The experience can be comforting, like a companion who narrates your life, or it can be suffocating, a relentless chatter you cannot silence. For some, it becomes so vivid it borders on hallucination, the line between inner speech and external sound blurring until reality itself feels uncertain. The auditory feel of inner speech reminds you that even your most private moments are not silent but performed, as if your consciousness is both the speaker and the listener in a dialogue that never ends. It is a haunting mirror of the self, speaking to you in a voice that is and isn't yours. Multiplicity of inner voices. The multiplicity of inner voices reveals just how fragmented the self can be. Inside your head, there isn't only one voice. Sometimes it's a calm narrator, sometimes a critic dripping with doubt, sometimes a childlike echo of the past, or a stranger whispering fears you never meant to own. These voices emerge with different tones, accents, and emotions, like characters in a private theater performing on the stage of your mind. You insist you are one person, yet within you, a chorus speaks. This phenomenon unsettles because it blurs the line between sanity and madness. Most people hear their inner dialogue as their own, but in moments of stress, grief, or trauma, the voices fracture, arguing, mocking, comforting, contradicting. They speak as though they have wills of their own, yet they are all you. Psychologists call them fragments of the psyche, but to the experiencer, they feel like companions, adversaries, ghosts haunting the skull. The emotional weight of these voices can be crushing. A harsh one can tear you apart with shame. A tender one can lift you from despair. Sometimes they fight for dominance, leaving you trapped in their storm. And in extreme cases, the multiplicity becomes so vivid it builds entirely separate selves, each with their own memories, desires, and identities. The multiplicity of inner voices exposes a chilling truth. The self you believe is singular may be nothing more than a fragile harmony, a temporary agreement among many hidden parts. You are not one voice, you are a choir, forever shifting, never fully under your command. Absence of inner monologue. The absence of inner monologue is one of the most startling variations of consciousness. Many people live with a constant voice in their heads, a stream of words narrating, questioning, rehearsing, and reflecting. It is so natural they assume everyone hears it, but for some, there is only silence. No voice echoes through their thoughts, no sentences unspool in the mind. Ideas exist as feelings, as images, as wordless knowing, but not as inner speech. This absence can feel alien when first discovered. Imagine realizing that others talk to themselves all day long, carrying on silent conversations, arguing, comforting, replaying moments in whispers no one else hears. For those without it, thinking is quieter, more immediate, but also harder to explain. Memories are recalled as impressions rather than verbal replay. Decisions emerge whole, without the slow murmur of debate. The world is navigated not through words, but through instinct, sensation, and unspoken understanding. The emotional weight of this lies in what it reveals, that even in the most intimate space, the mind itself, people inhabit radically different realities. To one person, silence might feel empty, even lonely. To another, it feels peaceful, free from the chatter that never ends. But both live convinced their way is normal until they glimpse the other. The absence of inner monologue forces a haunting recognition. Your inner world is not universal. The way you think, the very sound of your own mind, is unique, and perhaps no one else will ever truly know what it feels like to be you. Emotional coloring of awareness. Emotional coloring of awareness is the invisible filter that tints everything you see, think, and feel. The world itself does not change, but your mood paints it in shades of joy, sorrow, fear, or longing. On days when your heart is light, the sun feels warmer, faces look kinder, and even silence carries a gentle calm. Yet when despair settles in, the same world turns cold, voices feel sharp, and every corner of reality seems drenched in shadow. This coloring is so seamless that you often mistake it for truth. You believe the world is bleak or is beautiful, not realizing that what you are really perceiving is your own state of mind reflected back at you. Emotions saturate awareness, bending judgment, shaping memory, altering even the passage of time. A moment of terror can stretch into eternity, while an hour of laughter collapses into seconds. The haunting part is how little control you have over it. A single memory, a tone of voice, a flash of disappointment can shift the palette of awareness instantly. The same life, the same surroundings can transform from radiant to unbearable in the span of a breath. This fragility reveals how much of reality is not out there, but painted from within. Emotional coloring of awareness makes every experience deeply personal, a mirror of the heart projected onto the world. It reminds you that your reality is never neutral. It is always stained with feeling, each emotion turning existence into a canvas, brushed in colors no one else can ever quite see as you do. Perceptual bias from mood. Perceptual bias from mood reveals how fragile and colored your reality truly is. When you are joyful, the world glows, light feels brighter, faces kinder, possibilities endless. But when sadness grips you, the same world dims, every sound heavier, every color drained, every glance tinged with threat or indifference. The external world does not change, but your mood bends it, reshaping reality into a mirror of your inner state. You are never just seeing, you are always feeling your way through the world, and that feeling decides what you see. This mystery unsettles because it shows perception is not neutral. You do not encounter an objective reality. You encounter a reality filtered through the weather of your emotions. A cloudy mind makes a cloudy world. A storm inside paints storms outside. Your mood quietly edits every detail. A stranger's look becomes hostile or warm. Silence becomes peace or emptiness. The future becomes either promise or threat. The haunting truth is that you may never see the world as it is, only as you are. Mood is like a lens you cannot take off, shaping every experience, every memory, every decision. It means your reality is not fixed, but shifting, vulnerable to the tides of chemicals and feelings within you. Perceptual bias from mood is both beautiful and terrifying. Beautiful because joy can make the world sing, terrifying because despair can make it vanish, proving that the line between inner and outer life is thinner than you dare to believe. Transformations in love. Transformations in love reveal how completely another person can alter the fabric of your consciousness. Love does not simply add someone into your life, it rewrites the way you see, feel, and exist. The ordinary becomes luminous. A street you've walked 1,000 times glows with new meaning when walked beside them. A song you once ignored now pierces your soul because it reminds you of their smile. Love floods awareness with intensity, turning every detail into a thread woven into the tapestry of connection. The transformation runs deeper than perception. Love bends time itself. Hours vanish in their presence, yet minutes without them stretch unbearably. The boundaries of self blur. Their joy becomes your joy, their pain your own. The line between I and you softens into we, a merging that feels as natural as it is impossible to explain. Even your memories change shape. Moments that once seemed small are recolored in the light of love, glowing brighter simply because they now belong to your shared story. But the haunting beauty of this transformation is its vulnerability. Love has the power to lift you to radiant heights, but also to unmake you. A single silence, a single loss, and the same force that made life shimmer can make it unbearable. To love is to risk your very sense of self, to hand over pieces of your mind and let them live in someone else. Transformations in love expose the rawest truth of consciousness, that your inner world is not fixed but fragile and can be forever reshaped by the presence or the absence of another. Reshaping of self through grief. The reshaping of self through grief is one of the most devastating transformations a human being can endure. When someone you love is torn away, the world doesn't just lose a person, you lose the version of yourself that existed with them. Suddenly, your identity feels fractured. The routines you shared collapse into silence. The roles you played vanish, and the you who laughed, loved, and belonged in their presence no longer has a place. Grief is not just sorrow, it is a dismantling of the self. What makes this transformation so haunting is its permanence. The world expects healing, a return to normal, but grief never restores what was lost. Instead, it remakes you. Memories carve new depths into your soul, reshaping how you see love, time, and even life itself. The voice of the person gone echoes in your thoughts, coloring decisions, haunting quiet moments. Their absence becomes a presence, a shadow that follows you into every new beginning. And within this reshaping lies both cruelty and strange beauty. Cruelty because grief strips you raw, exposing vulnerabilities you never knew existed. Beauty because it deepens you, weaving loss into the very fabric of who you are. You carry them forward, not as they were, but as they live inside you now. The reshaping of self through grief is a reminder that love never ends cleanly. It tears holes, leaves scars, and builds new selves in the ruins. It shows you that the person you were died with them and the person you are becoming is being written in the language of loss. Vastness of awe. The vastness of awe is the shiver that takes hold when you stand before something so immense it dwarfs the boundaries of self. A mountain rising into the sky, the endless spread of stars, the thunder of an ocean wave. Each moment pulls you out of the small cage of daily thought and hurls you into a space where words fail. Awe is not just seeing something large, it is feeling the scale press against your very being, leaving you breathless, humbled, undone. In awe, the mind stretches wider than it knew it could. Time slows, awareness expands, and you glimpse a reality that feels far greater than your own story. For an instant, the chatter of identity quiets, replaced by the raw immensity of what stands before you. Some describe awe as terrifying, a confrontation with how fragile and insignificant we truly are. Others describe it as transcendent, the sense of being woven into something infinite. Both reactions speak to the same force, the collapse of self under the weight of the vast. What makes awe so powerful is how it lingers. Long after the moment passes, the memory glows like an ember, carrying with it a new perspective on life. Suddenly, the everyday feels smaller and yet more precious. The vastness of awe stirs something ancient within us, a reminder that beyond our routines and struggles lies a universe that refuses to be contained, a universe that can, in a single instant, overwhelm the self and leave only wonder in its place. Heaviness of boredom. The heaviness of boredom is one of the most suffocating states of mind. Time, which usually flows unnoticed, slows to a crawl, each second dragging like a weight across your chest. The simplest tasks feel unbearable, every sound exaggerated, every thought dull, every movement heavy. Boredom is not the absence of stimulation. It is the crushing presence of emptiness, a silence so loud it gnaws at the edges of your sanity. You stare at the clock, and the clock stares back, indifferent to your desperation for release. This heaviness unsettles because boredom feels like being locked inside yourself, trapped with a restless energy that has nowhere to go. Unlike pain or fear, which at least have clear objects, boredom is a void without direction, an ache without a wound. It turns the ordinary into torment. Minutes stretch into eternities, small inconveniences swell into burdens, and the world feels stripped of meaning. The weight of it presses down, leaving you suffocated by your own awareness, desperate for something, anything that might shatter the monotony. And yet, boredom is powerful. It reveals how deeply you crave novelty, purpose, movement. It forces you to confront the terrifying emptiness that lies beneath distraction. the raw truth that without meaning, consciousness itself becomes unbearable. The heaviness of boredom is more than just a mood. It is a glimpse of the void, a reminder that your mind is restless, hungry, unwilling to sit still in the silence of existence. It is the suffocating shadow of time itself, pressing down until every moment feels too heavy to hold. Spontaneity of laughter. The spontaneity of laughter is one of the most startling eruptions of human consciousness. It bursts out without warning, a sudden rush of sound and body, shaking your chest, stealing your breath, bending you double. Often, you don't choose to laugh. It seizes you. A phrase, a gesture, a perfectly timed silence, and suddenly your mind and body collapse into waves of uncontrollable release. It feels like an invasion, a joy or absurdity exploding through you before you even know why. What makes laughter so strange is its unpredictability. You can rehearse a joke, memorize every word, and still fail to spark even a smile. But in the right moment, the smallest glance can shatter composure, leaving you helpless in a fit of laughter that feels larger than you. It is as though humor bypasses reason and strikes directly at something primal inside the mind, a reflex wired into the very core of being. Laughter is not just sound, it is communion. When it erupts in groups, it spreads like wildfire, uniting strangers, breaking barriers, dissolving fear. It creates a rhythm of connection, a fleeting moment where everyone shares the same pulse of joy. And yet, it can also arrive in the strangest places, at funerals, in grief, in the middle of sorrow, as if the unconscious rebels against despair with a sudden burst of defiance. The spontaneity of laughter reminds you that consciousness is not fully under your control. It is wild, unpredictable, and deeply human, a force that hijacks your body and exposes the mysterious joy hidden at the heart of existence. Relief in crying. Relief in crying is one of the strangest contradictions of emotion. Tears arrive in moments of pain, sorrow, or overwhelming feeling, bursting forth when words collapse. Crying exposes your rawest self, a surrender you cannot hide, yet within that flood comes an undeniable release. The body shakes, the throat tightens, the eyes blur, and then, when it's over, a strange lightness follows, as if the storm has passed and left the air cleaner inside you. This release is not just chemical, it is profoundly human. Crying bridges the body and the soul, carrying anguish out through trembling breaths and streams of salt. It is as though pain must be given form, must spill into the world before it can loosen its grip. After the sobs subside, the heaviness doesn't vanish, but it softens, no longer strangling from within. You are left fragile, emptied, but also freer. What makes this so deeply moving is how universal it is. Cultures differ, languages divide, but the tears of a grieving mother, a broken lover, or a child in fear are understood everywhere. And yet, crying is more than a signal to others. It is a healing act for the one who weeps. In crying, you allow yourself to break, and in that breaking, you find the first thread of repair. Relief in crying shows that even suffering carries its own medicine, that sometimes the body knows how to soothe the soul in ways the mind cannot. Altered states through music. Altered states through music reveal the strange power of sound to rewrite the boundaries of consciousness. A melody begins, a rhythm builds, and suddenly you are no longer simply listening. You are transported. Your heart sinks with the beat. Your body moves without thought. Your mind drifts into places untouched by silence. Music does not just enter the ears, it floods the nervous system, bypassing reason and speaking directly to the emotional core. In moments of immersion, a song can feel like a spell. A haunting violin can summon grief so sharp it aches in your bones. A thunderous drumbeat can ignite primal energy, making you feel alive in ways words cannot describe. A gentle lullaby can cradle the spirit, melting fear into safety. With each shift in tempo, harmony, and tone, consciousness bends, reshaping mood, memory, and even the sense of time itself. Minutes expand into eternities or collapse into heartbeats. The uncanny force of music is that it creates experiences both deeply personal and profoundly universal. Two strangers may hear the same song and be carried into entirely different inner worlds, yet still feel connected in their surrender. Concert halls, nightclubs, choirs, all become temples where minds fuse through shared rhythm, where individuality blurs into collective ecstasy. What unsettles most is how little control you have when music takes hold. A single chord can pierce defenses, pulling tears from eyes or joy from the body before thought has a chance to intervene. Altered states through music remind you that sound is not entertainment alone. It is an ancient key, one that unlocks hidden rooms within the soul and reveals how easily consciousness can be transformed. Entrainment by rhythm is one of the most primal and irresistible forces acting on the mind. A beat begins, steady, pulsing, relentless, and before you decide, your body answers. Your foot taps, your head nods, your heart seems to sync with the sound. It is as though rhythm bypasses thought, slipping directly into your nervous system, pulling you into its current. Music does not just move you metaphorically, it moves you, seizing your body, binding you to its invisible clock. This phenomenon unsettles because it reveals how little control you truly have. Rhythm does not ask for permission, it takes hold. Entire groups of people can be swept into unison, clapping, marching, or dancing in a shared trance, their individuality dissolving into the collective beat. It is intoxicating, even transcendent, as if the body remembers something ancient and buried, a language older than words. But entrainment is not only joy, it is power. Drums can rally armies, chants can hypnotize crowds, rituals can bind minds together until they beat as one. Rhythm can soothe, heal, or liberate, but it can just as easily control, seduce, or enslave. The unsettling truth is that beneath your reasoning mind lies an ancient engine, one that rhythm can access with terrifying ease. Entrainment by rhythm exposes the deep vulnerability of consciousness, that something as simple as a repeating sound can dissolve the boundary between self and other, dragging you into a current you did not choose. It is proof that the mind is not only a thinker, but a dancer, forever at the mercy of the invisible drum of existence. Intensity of silence. The intensity of silence is one of the most haunting qualities of human awareness. At first, silence seems like nothingness, the absence of sound, a blank canvas. But step into it deeply, and it swells, pressing against you with a force as real as thunder. In silence, every heartbeat pounds louder, every breath becomes a drum, every thought grows sharper, echoing in the vast stillness. What felt empty begins to feel heavy, as if silence itself were alive, wrapping around you until you can no longer escape its grip. Silence can be peaceful, a sanctuary where the mind softens and the world loosens its hold. In those moments, it feels like a balm, a reminder of the calm beneath the chaos. But silence also has teeth. It exposes the noise you usually drown out, the racing of your mind, the ache of loneliness, the secrets you try not to face. In silence, there is no distraction, only the raw presence of yourself staring back at you. What makes silence so intense is its paradox. It is emptiness that feels full, absence that feels overwhelming. It can comfort you like a gentle embrace, or crush you with a suffocating weight. In the quiet of a dark night, in the pause after grief, in the stillness of meditation, silence ceases to be nothing. It becomes a presence so vast, it feels like standing at the edge of infinity. The intensity of silence is a reminder that even in the absence of sound, consciousness finds a way to fill the void with meaning, fear, or transcendence. Depth of altered states. The depth of altered states reveals how fragile and flexible reality truly is. Through meditation, hypnosis, drugs, trance, or even sheer exhaustion, consciousness can plunge into worlds far removed from ordinary waking life. In these states, the familiar rules dissolve, time bends, identity wavers, the body feels both near and distant. A person can slip into visions, float outside themselves, or merge with sensations so overwhelming they erase all boundaries of self. What was once certain, the solidity of the world, the continuity of thought, becomes liquid, shifting, unfixed. These depths are unsettling because they show how easily your sense of reality can be rewritten. A substance swallowed, a mantra repeated, or even the rhythm of breath can strip away the ordinary world and replace it with something vast, terrifying, or unbearably beautiful. Some encounter infinite light, others descend into chaos and shadow. But in every altered state, the truth is undeniable. What you call reality is not a single stable place. It is a fragile construct the brain weaves, one that can be unstitched and rewoven in countless forms. The haunting pull of altered states lies in their aftershocks. People return to ordinary life carrying memories of vastness, of terror, of revelation, unable to fully explain what they touch. Were they hallucinations, tricks of a chemical storm, or glimpses of dimensions usually hidden? The depth of altered states reminds you that consciousness is not a flat surface, but an ocean, and most of your waking life is spent floating on the shallowest waves, never knowing how deep it truly goes. Mental stillness in meditation. Mental stillness in meditation is the rare and almost eerie quiet that comes when the constant chatter of the mind finally dissolves. For most of your life, thought never stops. Endless commentary, memory, worry, and noise echoing inside. But in deep meditation, that ceaseless current can slow, then vanish, leaving behind a silence so profound it feels otherworldly. No story, no identity, no rushing voice, only presence, vast and untouched. This stillness is not emptiness, but fullness. Without distraction, every breath feels infinite, every heartbeat a universe. The boundaries of self begin to blur, the usual sense of me shrinking into something larger, softer, almost boundless. For some, it is peace unlike anything else. For others, it is terrifying, as though the familiar scaffolding of identity has fallen away. The self you cling to suddenly feels like an illusion, and in its place, there is only awareness, raw and unshaped. What makes this state so powerful is its permanence in memory. Even when the noise of daily life returns, the glimpse of silence lingers, a reminder that beneath the chaos, there exists a hidden depth, a calm, untouched by fear or desire. Mental stillness in meditation is not passive. It is transformative. In that silence, anger loses its grip, longing fades, and the restless ache for control softens. You realize how much of your suffering comes not from life itself, but from the noise of mind. And once you have touched that stillness, even for a moment, you know it is always there, waiting beneath the storm, a sanctuary within yourself. Persistence of self. The persistence of self is one of the most haunting illusions of consciousness. Year after year, your body changes, your memories shift, your thoughts and desires transform, yet through it all, you feel as though you are the same person. The child you once were is gone. The teenager you remember exists only in fading images, and even yesterday's version of you has dissolved into memory. Still, something whispers within, I am me, and I have always been me. This continuity is unsettling because it defies reason. Every cell in your body is replaced over time. Every experience reshapes your mind, yet your sense of I endures like a flame that never dies, flickering across different stages of life without being extinguished. Is the self an anchor or only the illusion of one? If everything you are, your memories, your choices, your very brain changes, then what exactly remains? What is it that gives you the eerie conviction that you are still the same being who once took their first breath? The persistence of self is both comforting and terrifying. It comforts because it gives you identity, continuity, the thread that stitches your life into a single story. It terrifies because it might be nothing more than a trick of consciousness, a narrative spun to protect you from the chaos of constant change. Perhaps there is no solid self at all, only a stream of experiences tied together by memory and belief. Yet even knowing this, the feeling refuses to vanish. The self persists, like a ghost haunting the body, claiming permanence in a world where nothing truly lasts. Continuity of identity. The continuity of identity is one of the most fragile illusions of consciousness. You wake each morning certain that you are the same person who fell asleep the night before, the same child who once ran through schoolyards, the same soul who has carried every memory, every choice, every scar. And yet, beneath this certainty lies a riddle. Your body changes cell by cell. Your mind rewires with every experience. Your thoughts shift moment to moment. Nothing about you is fixed, yet you move through life convinced of an unbroken thread called you. This feeling of continuity is both comforting and deceptive. It allows you to build a life, to love, to dream, to plan for a future that you assume will still belong to the same self. But the truth is more unsettling. The child you once were is gone, their fears and joys now unreachable, except as fading echoes. Even who you were last year feels like a stranger at times. The self that walks into tomorrow will carry your name, but will they really be you, or just another mind inheriting your story? The continuity of identity haunts because it suggests that you may be nothing more than memory binding countless versions together. Identity is less a permanent flame and more a series of sparks, each one replacing the last, each one pretending to be the same fire. And still, the illusion holds. You look into the mirror and whisper, "I am still me," even as the truth trembles beneath. That self is a shifting river, and the one who began the journey is not the one who stands here now. Identity loss in amnesia. Identity loss in amnesia is one of the most chilling ruptures of self. To wake up and not know your own name, to stare into a mirror and see a stranger, to hear stories of your life as though they belong to someone else. This is the disintegration of the very anchor that makes existence coherent. Without memory, the thread of identity snaps, leaving you drifting in a fog where the past is erased and the future feels unmoored. You are alive, yet hollow, moving through a world filled with evidence of a self you can no longer reach. The terror of amnesia lies not just in forgetting facts, but in losing the continuity of being. Every memory, childhood laughter, first love, painful lessons, forms the story of who you are. Strip those away, and you are not simply forgetful, you are unmade. Loved ones become strangers. Familiar places feel foreign. Even your own voice sounds disconnected from the person you once were. It is as though the soul has been severed from its roots, leaving only a body, carrying the shell of a vanished self. And yet, within that void, something haunting emerges. People with amnesia often rebuild, forming new identities, constructing fresh stories without ever recovering the old. This reveals a disturbing truth. Identity is more fragile, more constructed than you dare to admit. The self you cling to may not be eternal, but a delicate weave of memory, always one accident, one injury, one gap away from unraveling. Identity loss in amnesia exposes how terrifyingly thin the thread of you truly is. Multiplicity in dissociative identity. Multiplicity in dissociative identity is one of the most unsettling revelations of the mind's fragility and resilience. Within a single body, multiple selves can emerge, each carrying its own voice, memories, fears, and desires. These identities are not mere masks. They can have different accents, handwriting, even physical responses. One self may feel pain, while another feels nothing. One may recall a trauma in vivid detail, while another swears it never happened. It is as if the mind, unable to bear the weight of experience, shatters into fragments, each piece carrying part of the burden. For the person living it, this multiplicity is both haunting and protective. The shifts can come suddenly, waking up in places with no memory of arriving, finding objects they never bought, hearing thoughts that do not feel like their own. To outsiders, it seems impossible, but for those inside, it is survival. Dissociation becomes a shield, carving the unbearable into compartments that allow life to continue. What makes dissociative identity so chilling is the way it disrupts the idea of a single, unified self. Most people take for granted that they are one person, continuous and whole, but here, the illusion cracks. Identity itself proves fluid, unstable, able to divide when the pressure becomes too great. Multiplicity in dissociative identity forces you to confront a terrifying possibility that the I you trust so deeply may not be permanent, but a fragile arrangement of voices, always at risk of splintering. And within that fracture lies both tragedy and strength, the mind's desperate, astonishing ability to rewrite itself in order to survive. Ego dissolution. Ego dissolution is one of the most bewildering and overwhelming states a human can experience. In this altered state, the tight boundaries that define I begin to unravel. The voice in your head quiets, the sense of ownership over thoughts and actions fades, and the walls between self and world dissolve into something vast and formless. You no longer feel like a single separate being moving through reality. Instead, you feel as though you are reality itself, merging with everything around you in a way that words can only fail to capture. The experience can feel ecstatic, terrifying, or both. For some, ego dissolution is liberation, a release from the prison of self, as though they have been carrying the weight of me their entire lives without realizing it. The boundaries fall away, and with them, fear, shame, and isolation vanish too. For others, it is panic-inducing, like free-falling into emptiness, losing grip on the only anchor they've ever known. The self, once so solid, proves fragile, dissolving like salt in water, leaving only the raw expanse of awareness itself. What makes ego dissolution so unsettling is the truth it reveals, that the I you protect, defend, and cling to may not be real in the way you believe. It may only be a construct, a story spun by the brain, useful but not ultimate. And when that story drops away, you are left face to face with the unfiltered mystery of existence, boundless, centerless, and terrifyingly infinite. It is the death of the self without the death of consciousness, a glimpse of life stripped of its most familiar mask. The dual nature of self. The dual nature of self is the strange tension at the heart of being human. On one hand, you feel like a single, unified I, moving through the world with clarity and intention. You speak with one voice, make choices, carry memories, and insist that beneath it all, there is a core essence that is you. Yet at the same time, your mind reveals itself to be divided, conscious and unconscious, reason and emotion, impulse and restraint, observer and actor. You are both the thinker and the one who watches thought, both the body that aches and the awareness that notices the ache. This duality shows itself in every moment of inner conflict. Part of you wants to stay, part of you wants to leave. One voice tells you to be brave, another whispers fear. You scold yourself, comfort yourself, argue with yourself, as though more than one being lives inside you. Even in stillness, the watcher remains, the sense of an inner witness silently observing everything you feel and do, a ghost within the machine of flesh. The haunting truth is that neither side feels less real. The unified self is what allows you to live with continuity, to tell a coherent story of your life. But the divided self is what slips out in your contradictions, your secrets, your impulses that seem to come from nowhere. The dual nature of self is the constant reminder that you are both one and many, a fragile harmony of voices and forces that somehow manage to wear the mask of a single face. Mirror recognition in animals is one of the most haunting glimpses into the mystery of awareness beyond humanity. When a chimpanzee touches paint on its own face after seeing its reflection, or an elephant inspects its body in a mirror, or a dolphin twists and turns to examine markings on itself, something extraordinary is revealed. The animal is not mistaking the reflection for another creature. It is recognizing itself. In that instant, a spark of self-awareness flares, suggesting that the boundary between human and animal minds is far thinner than once believed. The emotional weight of this is staggering. To recognize yourself is to step into the realm of identity, to know you exist as a being separate from the world. It is the difference between moving as instinct and moving as a self. A dog may bark at its reflection, a cat may swat at the other, but when a creature realizes the mirror is showing them, it reveals a consciousness not so different from yours. They too may carry an inner life, an awareness that stretches beyond instinct into the strange and private theater of the self. This recognition is unsettling because it forces you to confront a humbling truth. Consciousness is not yours alone. It may flicker in the minds of other species, glowing quietly in eyes that look back at you from across the evolutionary gulf. When an animal gazes into a mirror and meets its own eyes, you are staring at one of the most mysterious thresholds of existence, the moment a being discovers itself. Emergence of self in infants. The emergence of self in infants is one of the most delicate and mesmerizing transformations in human life. A newborn arrives as pure sensation, hunger, warmth, sound, light, without the boundary of I and world. At first, the infant does not know where their body ends and where the world begins. The mother's arms feel like an extension of themselves. Cries blur with responses, and the self is only a hazy cloud of raw experience. But slowly, something astonishing unfolds. The baby begins to recognize patterns. The reflection in a mirror, the hand waving in front of their eyes, the sound of their own laughter. They discover that some movements belong to them, and with that realization, a fragile sense of me takes root. The first smile at recognition, the first grasp of control, the spark of delight at causing something to happen, all signal the birth of self-awareness. This shift is both wondrous and haunting. To witness it is to see consciousness crystallizing, to see a mind awaken to itself for the very first time. Yet, hidden in its beauty is fragility. The infant self is tender, easily shaped by love or neglect, safety or fear. It is a reminder that the I you carry with such certainty was once an emerging spark, vulnerable and unformed. The emergence of self in infants exposes the mystery of how identity begins at all. From a sea of sensations rises a voice that one day will say, I am. It is the most ordinary miracle, and at the same time, the most profound. Development of theory of mind. The development of theory of mind is one of the most profound leaps in human consciousness. In early childhood, the world feels centered around you, your thoughts, your feelings, your needs. Then slowly, a strange realization dawns. Other people have minds of their own. They see things you don't. They know things you can't. They feel emotions hidden from your eyes. It is the moment a child looks at someone else and understands. They are thinking too. This shift is both wondrous and unsettling. Suddenly, the world is no longer a stage built only for you. It is populated with countless invisible worlds, each as rich and private as your own. Every glance, every silence, every word may hide thoughts you'll never access. The recognition that others hold secrets, intentions, and perspectives changes everything. It creates empathy, deception, storytelling, love, and conflict. It allows you to step outside your own skin and imagine life through someone else's eyes. But this awareness also carries a shadow. To know others have inner lives is also to know they can hide them, twist them, or keep them forever locked away. You can never fully enter another's mind, no matter how much you love or trust them. The development of theory of mind opens the door to connection, but also to loneliness, for it reminds you that every consciousness is isolated, every soul trapped behind its own eyes. It is a beautiful and haunting discovery that the world is filled with minds, yet no two will ever truly merge. Altered perception in autism. Altered perception in autism reveals how differently the world can appear depending on the wiring of the brain. For many autistic individuals, the sensory world is not a quiet backdrop, but an overwhelming storm. Lights too bright, sounds too sharp, textures unbearable against the skin. What is ordinary for others can feel like chaos, every detail amplified until it floods awareness. A flickering light that most people never notice can become a stabbing distraction. The hum of a refrigerator can drown out a conversation. The fabric of a shirt can feel like sandpaper scraping against the body. But altered perception is not only about overwhelm, it can also bring extraordinary clarity. Some autistic people notice patterns, rhythms, and details that others miss entirely. A subtle change in tone, the symmetry of a design, the perfection of repetition, all of it stands out in luminous detail. The world, instead of blending into a blur, often arrives in sharp fragments, each piece demanding attention. For some, this clarity fuels brilliance in memory, art, or problem solving, turning what feels like a burden into a strange and powerful gift. The emotional weight of this difference lies in its invisibility. From the outside, it is easy to assume everyone shares the same perception, but inside, the autistic experience can feel like living in another reality altogether, one where the volume is always turned up, where the ordinary can be unbearable, and where beauty and pain often come from the same heightened sensitivity. Altered perception in autism reminds us that no two minds inhabit the same world, and that reality itself is always filtered through the fragile lens of the brain. Blurring of self and other. The blurring of self and other is one of the most disorienting shifts in consciousness. In ordinary life, you feel a sharp boundary. You are here, the world is there, and other people exist apart from you. Yet in certain states, psychedelics, meditation, spiritual ecstasy, or even moments of overwhelming intimacy, that boundary begins to dissolve. You feel yourself leaking outward, merging with the presence of another, or melting entirely into the world around you. The sense of I collapses, leaving only connection, vast and terrifying. This merging can feel like revelation. Lovers describe becoming one, their identities fusing in a way that makes separation feel impossible. Mystics speak of dissolving into the divine, a union where selfhood evaporates into infinite presence. Under psychedelics, the body may vanish, and with it, the very idea of being separate. What remains is a current of awareness with no borders, no edges, no owner. It is both ecstasy and annihilation, a state where selfhood feels both irrelevant and unreal. The haunting weight of this lies in what it reveals about identity. If the self can dissolve so easily, how real is it to begin with? Is individuality just a fragile construct, a mask worn by consciousness until the right conditions strip it away? The blurring of self and other leaves you shaken, caught between awe and fear, realizing that the boundaries you cling to, the skin, the name, the story, may be nothing more than lines drawn in sand, ready to be swept away by the tide of experience. Directness of empathy. The directness of empathy is the eerie and beautiful ability to feel another's inner world as if it were your own. You see someone cry, and suddenly a heaviness grows in your chest. You hear laughter, and joy stirs inside you before thought even arrives. It is not a choice. It is instantaneous, as though invisible threads connect your nervous system to theirs. Empathy bypasses logic and explanation. It is raw transmission, emotion leaping from one body to another like fire crossing dry grass. What makes this so haunting is how real it feels. The pain of another can twist your stomach, bring tears to your eyes, even without words exchanged. Their joy can brighten your spirit, lifting you higher than your own successes. It is as if the boundary between self and other thins, revealing that your inner life is not fully yours, alone but open, porous, vulnerable. Science speaks of mirror neurons and evolutionary survival, but such explanations do little to capture the immediacy of empathy, the way a stranger's grief can crush you, or a child's laughter can heal you in an instant. This directness suggests that our hearts are wired not just for isolation, but for communion, that consciousness itself may be designed to resonate across bodies. Yet there is a shadow to it. Empathy can overwhelm, drowning you in feelings that are not yours, leaving you shaken by sorrows you cannot fix. Still, in its rawest form, empathy is one of the clearest reminders that you are not alone, that the line between your soul and another's may be far thinner than you dare to believe. Reward of compassion. The reward of compassion is one of the most mysterious and moving features of human consciousness. When you ease someone's suffering, hold a hand, or offer comfort, a surge of warmth floods through you, a deep satisfaction that feels larger than yourself. It is not the shallow pleasure of indulgence, but something richer, heavier, glowing in the chest like a quiet fire. In helping another, you feel healed. In softening someone else's pain, your own heart lightens. This reward unsettles because it seems to defy the cold logic of survival. Evolution might explain it as bonding, as cooperation that keeps groups alive, but that explanation cannot capture the raw force of the experience itself. The tears that rise when you witness another's struggle, the pull in your chest to comfort them, the strange joy in self-sacrifice, these feel deeper than strategy. They feel like the very fabric of humanity, a binding thread woven into your consciousness. And yet, compassion's reward is not always gentle. It can ache, it can overwhelm, it can shatter you as you open yourself to another's suffering. But even then, there is meaning in the pain, as if sharing the burden transforms it into something sacred. Compassion rewards not with wealth or power, but with a profound sense of connection, the reminder that you are not separate, that your inner world is tied to others in ways no wall can sever. The reward of compassion is the haunting joy of being moved beyond yourself, a joy that lingers long after the act is done, whispering that in giving, you become whole. Binding force of morality. The binding force of morality is one of the most powerful and mysterious aspects of consciousness. Unlike hunger or thirst, morality is not a physical need, yet it grips the mind with the weight of life and death. You feel it as an invisible law carved into your being, a voice that whispers this is right and thunders this is wrong. Even when no one is watching, even when breaking the rule would bring reward, something inside resists. The moral sense binds you, not with chains of iron, but with chains of conscience that feel just as unbreakable. What makes morality so haunting is its authority. You do not simply prefer kindness over cruelty, as you prefer sweet over bitter. You feel that one is good and the other evil. The difference strikes with gravity, shaping your choices, shaping societies, shaping history itself. People will sacrifice wealth, safety, even their lives for a moral cause, as if this inner force were stronger than the instinct to survive. Where does such power come from? Is it evolution's trick, wiring you to cooperate? Is it culture's grip, training you to obey? Or is it something deeper, a law that exists beyond the human mind, echoing through your very soul? The binding force of morality is inescapable. Even when you try to silence it, it lingers. Guilt gnaws when you betray it. Pride swells when you obey it. It is both burden and compass, the invisible weight that makes you human, forever caught between your desires and the call of a voice you cannot see yet cannot ignore. Moving power of beauty. The moving power of beauty is one of the most mysterious forces that grips the human soul. A sunset ignites the sky in fire. A song pierces the heart with aching sweetness. A face strikes you with such radiance that for a moment the world stops. Beauty doesn't just please, it overwhelms, it shakes you, it brings tears to your eyes for reasons you cannot explain. In its presence, you feel both fragile and infinite, as though some hidden truth has been revealed, not in words but in feeling. What makes beauty so haunting is how it bypasses reason. You cannot reduce the majesty of a symphony to sound waves or the allure of a painting to pigments on canvas. Something greater stirs inside you, something that feels beyond survival or utility. Evolution may argue that beauty is a trick, a lure for mates, a guide to fertile landscapes, but those explanations feel hollow against the thunder in your chest when beauty strikes. The emotional power of beauty lies in its ability to remind you that life is more than survival. It is the ache in your throat when a melody drags your memories to the surface. It is the stillness that falls over you as mountains rise in silence before your eyes. Beauty is both wound and healing, joy and sorrow tangled together, an invisible thread tugging you towards something higher than yourself. The moving power of beauty is the silent proof that even in a world of matter and motion, there exists something that touches you deeper than life itself.